+27 83 288 6684. Save it, share it, and stay in the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
A very good morning to you. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa, where we bring you the African perspective. I'm Peter Ndoro, and the Rise and Shine starts right now. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for the news with Jwalani Tulongwepe. Good morning.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. An unknown number of aid workers are missing after airstrikes hit a hospital in South Sudan near the Ethiopian border. The hospital is run by medical charity Doctors Without Borders in Jonglei State. There has been a resurgence in fighting in Jonglei State recently between government forces and those loyal to First Vice President Riek Machar, who has been suspended from his post after being accused of plotting to overthrow President Salva Kiir. There are fears that the fighting could reignite a full-blown civil war in the world's youngest nation. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu says the militant group Boko Haram is behind the attack in which dozens of people have been killed in a shooting on two villages in Nigeria's western state of Kwara. The attackers also set fire to shops and homes along with the residents of the traditional leader, forcing the residents of Nuku and Woro to flee. Officials have blamed jihadist groups and deployed an army battalion to Kwara Kaima constituency. The BBC's Makochi Akofo has the story.
The president last night put out a statement, and he did actually blame Boko Haram group, which has sort of been active in Nigeria for decades, for this attack. He did call it cowardly and beastly. His statement said the people in the community were attacked for refusing to adopt a more extreme doctrine, and he has said he's given orders for state and federal agencies to work together to see that those who had committed these atrocities wouldn't go scot-free.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended his decision not to fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who is currently on special leave while receiving his full salary and ministerial benefits. Ramaphosa accepted the Madlanga Commission's interim report recommendations regarding police misconduct and corruption. Ramaphosa has faced harsh criticism for leaving out Mchunu when he announced that action would be taken against implicated government officials. While on an oversight visit to the South African Revenue Service's National Command Centre in Brooklyn in Pretoria, Ramaphosa told the media that at the right time he's going to respond to all Madlanga Commission of Inquiry recommendations.
The Madlanga Commission issued an interim report, and I have studied it, and I've accepted the recommendations, and the work of the commission continues. And I know people have specifically asked about Minister Mchunu. And I have said I am waiting for that process to be completed. And it's going to be completed in 3 months. And I'm not going to, in the end, let the Madlanga Commission report or recommendations not be implemented. The problem at times is that people focus on one issue. Like right now, they're focusing on Minister Mchunu.
The United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has appealed for funds, warning that donor cuts have reduced the work of his agency to survival mode. He's asked for $400 million, $100 million less than last year. The BBC's Imogen Folks has the details.
Human rights gets only a small fraction of the United Nations' overall budget, but in 2025, member states still contributed less than they had promised. Human rights work in Yemen and Myanmar was cut back. Investing in human rights is an investment in peace for everyone, the UN believes. But with traditional donors in the US and Europe increasingly focused on economic challenges at home, it may be hard to convince them.
And finally, 2 days of talks between Ukraine, Russia and the United States aimed at ending Moscow's war have ended with the exchange of more prisoners of war. 314 captured soldiers, half from each side, have been swapped, the first such exchange in 4 months. The BBC's Sarah Rainsford reports from Kyiv.
Prisoner swaps did happen before the US got involved here, and there's no hint of any breakthrough on the big issue at the heart of any peace deal. That is, control over land in the eastern Donbass, where fighting remains intense. Russia demands Ukraine hands over the rest of the region that it hasn't conquered, and Kyiv will only agree to freezing the fighting at the current front line. Even then, it also wants firm guarantees from its allies that they would enforce any ceasefire. And Russia has made it clear it won't accept any arrangement that brings NATO troops into Ukraine.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Now, sports headlines. South Africa and Montenegro are expected to do battle in the Davis Cup. And John Ram is not happy with the ranking points ruling awarded by the world body. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine. Every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
It's a very good morning to you. Happy Friday, listeners and viewers across the continent and in the diaspora. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa, where we bring you the African perspective. My name is Peter Ndoro. Asanda Beda is away today. And remember, you can catch us on, and we're streaming live on the internet. channelafrica.co.za is our address. And you can also find us on your mobile apps. Just go into your app store, look for SABC Plus. That's SABC Plus, and then look for Channel Africa. And of course, Rise and Shine. And also on our various social media platforms, the major ones. Just look up Channel Africa and you'll find us there. And that'll keep you up to date in terms of news and current affairs every single day between 6 and 9 Central Africa time. So we've got a packed program. A couple of big issues involving humanitarian situations in Nigeria. Deadly attacks in Kwara and Katsina states have left authorities and citizens extremely concerned. And also in South Sudan, the ongoing conflict there, rise in violence has seen access to medical supplies and food aid and that kind of thing very restricted, and that's causing concern for humanitarian bodies such as UNICEF, and we'll be talking to somebody from there. All of that and so much more still to come right here on Rise and Shine.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. 60 years of Channel Africa. Your trusted voice. Your African perspective. Into the future. Keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za. As the sun rises on 2026, Channel Africa celebrates with you. This year, may prosperity flow like water. May unity strengthen our nations. And may every African story inspire the world.
Channel Afrique vous accompagne dans cette célébration. Que l'espoir illumine notre continent.
Que as vozes de África ecoem com orgulho.
Ustawi na ufanisi na vitiririke kama maji.
From all of us at Channel Africa, we wish you and yours a joyful, successful, and prosperous 2026.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
It's time now for our daily Africa Roundup. Each morning just after the 6 o'clock news, we bring you a concise update on the key developments shaping the continent and the world over the past 24 hours. And this with insights from our team of journalists and analysts and newsmakers And we place the day's biggest stories into context for you, helping you stay informed, connected, and prepared for the day ahead. Let's begin. South Africa's International Relations and Cooperations Minister, Ronald Lamola, says that Libya's path to stability will require inclusive dialogue and cooperation amongst all major political and social stakeholders. He was reacting to renewed tensions in the country following the reported assassination of Saif al-Islam, and that's Gaddafi's son. It's the son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, a development that could further complicate Libya's fragile political landscape. Lamola says that unity and broad participation remain essential for any lasting peace settlement.
In South Africa, we condemn any form of violence. And we have been very clear with Libya that the transitional period needs to lead to a negotiated settlement. All parties must come to the negotiation table, find a diplomatic and a peaceful means of engagement that must lead to a unified government of Libya that leads to finding long-term solutions, going into elections, and allowing the people of Libya to express their own will in line with the AU protocol. So that is the message we have for the Libyan people, that violence will not resolve. They must find each other on the table and work towards a unitary country.
The leader of one of South Africa's major opposition parties, the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, which is led by Julius Malema, well, he's called on the international community to boycott the 2026 FIFA World Cup in the United States, Mexico and Canada. He cites growing safety concerns after U.S. immigration enforcement operations left 2 Americans dead and thousands of migrants arrested.
There is a violation of human rights in the U.S. now. There is that unit called ICE, which is attacking immigrants, especially those who can't produce. So we have lived through that, where we had to put our IDs on our foreheads for us not to be beaten up. We cannot guarantee the security of Bafana Bafana. We cannot guarantee the security of the fence of South Africa if we are allowed in that particular country. It is not safe to go to America, not only during the World Cup. Any South African who had an intention to go to America, this is not the time. It is dangerous.
South Africa is once again at the center of global support for Palestinians. Activists from around the world have gathered in Johannesburg to announce plans for what they describe as the largest civilian flotilla yet, aimed at delivering aid to Gaza and challenging Israel's blockade. The announcement comes as South Africa continues its case against Israel at the International Court of Justice.
The choice of South Africa as a venue was described as symbolic. Anti-apartheid activist and Nelson Mandela's grandson, Chief Mandla Mandela, linked the flotilla to South Africa's own history of international solidarity.
My grandfather didn't mix his words when he said our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. This is a commitment he made to the Palestinian people. And now that he's no more, he's handed the baton to all of us.
Panic. Oh, sorry. Now, Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has said that Zambia wants to significantly expand economic cooperation with Ghana, with mining, investment and value addition identified as priority sectors. Speaking in Lusaka during a bilateral set of talks with his Ghanaian counterpart, President John Mahama, Hichilema said that discussions also covered economic reform programs, macroeconomic stability and fiscal consolidation, areas where both countries are seeking sustainable growth.
Your Excellency, I just want to express really how important the Ghana-Zambia relationship is, how we value this relationship, the trust, the bonds that Ghanaians have with Zambians, dating back to our leaders, Kwame Nkrumah, President Kaunda, and the kind of relationship that they put together, that extended to Ghanaians, citizens, Zambian citizens, leading to deeper relationships, including cross-country marriages, if I may say.
At the same time, Ghanaian President John Mahama says that the talks with Zambia signal growing opportunities for South-South cooperation, particularly in mining, trade and industrial development. He says that stronger partnerships between African economies are essential to building resilience and accelerating shared prosperity.
In my discussion with President Chilema, we agreed that we should strengthen bilateral relations even more across regions. And so while we cooperate at the continental level, bilateral relations between countries can make a very big difference. I met the Ghanaian community yesterday in the evening, and they asked me to extend their appreciation and thanks to you and your government for the very kind hospitality that you afford them. They say they feel comfortable and at home.
And that's how we come to the end of today's Africa Roundup. There'll be more for you on Monday morning after the 6 o'clock news. Stay with us. So much more still to come right here on Rise and Shine.
For 60 years, Channel Africa has connected the continent. Celebrate the journey. Celebrate the African perspective. Be inspired. Stay informed. Channel Africa, the beauty of life. Now available anytime, anywhere with our new app.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
The United Nations Secretary General has warned that there could be a humanitarian collapse in Cuba, a warning that's coming amid US threats to tariff any country that supplies oil to the Caribbean island nation. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on January the 29th in which he determined that the policies, practices and actions of the Cuban government constituted an unusual and an extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. Now, the order threatens to add an additional levy on countries that provide oil to Cuba, whilst the United Nations has urged dialogue. Sherwin Bryce-Peace picks up the story for us from New York.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has expressed concern about the deteriorating situation in Cuba, warning that there could be a humanitarian collapse if the country's oil needs remain unmet. His spokesperson, Stefan Dujarric.
The Secretary-General is extremely concerned about the humanitarian situation in Cuba, which will worsen, if not collapse, if its oil needs go unmet. He notes that for more than 3 decades, the General Assembly has consistently called for an end to the embargo imposed by the United States on Cuba. The Secretary-General urges all parties to pursue dialogue and respect for international law.
Cuba's Deputy Foreign Minister, Carlos Fernandez de Cosio, said they were engaged in contact with the United States, but that exchanges had not developed into a formal dialogue as yet.
We do not have a table of dialogue between the two countries. We have had exchange of messages. We have embassies. We have had communications, but we cannot say that we have a table of dialogue. Now, the U.S. government knows that we are ready to have a serious, meaningful, and responsible dialogue based on the respect for sovereign equality, respect for international law, and that we are sure that there are many issues that we could discuss, including many on which we have differences, and that perhaps many of them could find solution if there were to be a dialogue between the two countries.
As President Trump was pressed earlier this week about what sort of agreement he was seeking with Havana.
It's a failed nation now, and they're not getting any money from Venezuela, and they're not getting any money from anywhere. It's a failed nation. Mexico is going to cease sending them oil. So I'd like to take care of the people that are here from Cuba. You know, we have many people that came from Cuba that were thrown out of Cuba or that fled Cuba. They came over on rafts. They went through shark-infested waters. I don't know how they did it. And that was many years ago. Many would like to go back. Many would like to at least visit their relatives. And I think we're at a pretty close point. We are dealing with the Cuban leaders right now.
Mexico is currently Cuba's single largest supplier of oil, as the latter faces recurring fuel shortages that have contributed to power generation shortfalls, mass blackouts and broader economic disruption. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum indicated that her country hoped to send a humanitarian shipment of oil to Cuba this week without seeking confrontation.
Nuestro objetivo es enviarlo esta semana. Vamos a ver si es posible.
Our goal is to send humanitarian aid this week. We will see if it is possible. Obviously, we also need to know what their needs are, because it is not just a matter of what Mexico decides to send, but rather what is needed in order to send it. So it will be very transparent. We will report on it adequately.
While ordinary Cubans urge dialogue to ease the energy crisis facing the island nation.
I would like there to be a dialogue between Cuba and the United States so that things can be sorted out, so that we as Cubans don't have to go through what we are going through now, the lack of oil, electricity, and those things, so that everything can be more effective, right?
Everyone is concerned, of course, if Venezuela isn't sending fuel and Mexico isn't sending it. Who is going to send it? China and Russia are far away and have always supplied very little. Of course it's worrying, but anyway, let's hope it gets resolved.
The United States Embassy in Havana posted a security alert on X this week, warning that Cuba's national electric grid was increasingly unstable and power outages were occurring daily across the country, affecting water supply, lighting, refrigeration, and communications. It also cautioned Americans in the country or those planning to travel there of an increase in protests directed at the United States. A fully fledged United States economic embargo on Cuba has been in place since 1962. I'm Sherwin Bryce Pease in New York.
Well, from the New York to South Africa now, where Peter Ndoro, who's the Chief Executive Officer at a leading South African financial services company, Metropolitan, says that their small business mentorship initiative, Collective Shapers, MSC, is focused on developing practical solutions to tackle unemployment. Ndoro was speaking at an MSC event in Johannesburg. Tuto Ngobeni reports.
The Metropolitan Collective Shapers, or MCS program, has cemented itself as one of the leading initiatives in South Africa that has produced youth entrepreneurs that have gone on to build large successful businesses. Launched in 2021, the MCS program seeks to empower small business owners, assisting them to become leaders whose success will ultimately have a direct impact on their communities. The qualifying criteria for entry includes business owners who are between the ages 18 and 35 years, residing permanently in South Africa, with their businesses being 100% youth-owned by historically disadvantaged or disabled persons. The business must also have been operational for not less than 12 months at the time of the application for this program. 4 months ago, the fourth edition of this initiative was the first to be implemented nationwide with a specific focus on the logistics and agricultural sector, chosen for having the greatest potential for job creation. Peter Ndoro, Chief Executive at Metropolitan, says the program is about making an impact while also coming up with solutions for youth unemployment in the country.
The reason why we find ourselves in the communities, you mentioned that unemployment is a challenge out there. We're all aware of that. And from where we were sitting, we said, how can we be able to contribute? Come up with a solution which will help us to reduce the unemployment we talk about. Secondly, when you look into South African economy and where we are, that's why we have got a lot of people who have gone a route of creating employment themselves, even if it comes to solving issues that are maybe sitting with. And that, to me, I look at it as life really reward action.
Some of the program's alumni have become so successful, going on to become one of South Africa's leading entrepreneurs, as Chiguvo attests to this.
At a later stage, he was now supplying to the likes of Woolworths or Pick n Pay. That to me is the impact. And the fact that he's still here, more than 3 years later, it is a success. That's one. Number two, there are so many people who were part of the program. As much as you didn't make it to top 10, you have been given the tools. You have also been introduced to a bigger network. There are opportunities that you can still be able to tap on and be able to really grow. That to me is success. But an even better thing that I really expect from the group.
Through the program, the top 10 selected entrepreneurs gain access to personal branding and leadership training, business coaching designed to turn plans into profits, market access and national exposure, mentorship from industry experts, and opportunities to network with other like-minded entrepreneurs, all aimed at supporting the growth and long-term sustainability of the selected small businesses. Linda Mtalane, MCS alumni, has encouraged those selected in the program to make sure they know their brand.
I cannot tell you enough how important it is for you to know your brand and be comfortable speaking about it, because once it's documented, once it's in an article somewhere, it'll stay there, and that'll be the article that you reference one day when you're a big time commercial farmer, and you'll go back to say, this is where it started. So be intentional about every conversation that you have and every move that you make in your industry as well.
Meanwhile, Ziyanda Mzamisa, ontological coach, says it's important for the future entrepreneurs to be clear with their strategies in order for them to succeed.
And so then that's the beginning of strategy. Why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing. So what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Why does it matter? See, so the strategy has begun. By the time you put it on paper, it won't overwhelm you because you are one with it. You have embodied it. And so what you put on paper really truly will just be a to-do list. In the next 12 months, the next 3 years, how will I pursue that which I want to do and why I do it and why I'm wanting to it.
The event culminated in the announcement of the top 10 participants who have been selected to receive a range of prizes, including a cash injection, media training, branding, enhanced business visibility, and membership to the MyDo platform, which unlocks market access opportunities. For Channel Africa News, I am Tutongo Beni in Johannesburg.
6:26 is your time. Let's take a look at this now. The World Health Organization says that improving the nutritional quality of food served in schools can play a major role in shaping healthier eating habits for children throughout their lives. The UN Health Agency has released its first ever global evidence-based guidelines setting out practical policies and actions to help schools offer healthier food and drink choices. Katrin Engelhardt is a scientist at the WHO who led the development of the new guidelines, and she explains why creating healthier school food environments is now an urgent priority.
It's important to note that schools have indeed been long recognized as a critical setting for health and nutrition by WHO. And the Health Promoting Schools Network was actually one of the first networks established after the Ottawa Charter for Health Promotion, which is now 40 years ago, actually in 2026. In partnership with UNESCO, WHO has previously issued global standards for health promoting schools, which include really sort of the whole of school approach as a priority. But what has been missing until now is a dedicated evidence-based guideline focused specifically on the school food environments. And this includes the foods that are available and marketed at schools, for example. Guidelines do take a while to develop, so it's not that we just started this last month or so. It's been in the making for some time, but the launch is actually very timely. It's timely because in 2025, about 1 in 10 school-aged children and adolescents, 188 million children and adolescents, were living with obesity worldwide. And for the first time, this number surpassed children who are underweight. So the quality of food served to children, our children's diet is increasingly important. Unhealthy diets are now one of the leading risk factors for poor health globally, including among children. So the food environments in and around schools have changed rapidly. And actually, we're seeing that schools increasingly have foods available that are that are unhealthy, often ultra-processed, that are high in unhealthy fats and sugars and sodium. And these foods are available, but they're also marketed a lot in schools, including through sponsorships. So maybe just to add one last point, which is really important, is following the COVID-19 pandemic, there has really been a renewed global attention on school meals as a cornerstone for education, social protection, and food security, including through, for example, initiatives like the School Meals Coalition, which is really important and has over 100 countries now as members, member countries. And as we see school meals programs expand and being strengthened, it's essential that we ensure that the food provided to children is not just available for them, but that's also safe and nutritious and healthy. So countries have been asking for clear guidance on what policy actions work in schools and how to implement them to ensure that the food environments around schools are really healthy for children. Healthy school lunch course includes a balance of food groups such as whole grains and vegetables and fruits and protein-rich foods that are prepared in ways that support health and learning of the child. And these should be in line with national dietary guidelines. Also important to note what it should not look like. It should not include fried foods or foods high in unhealthy fats, salt, and free sugars. What's important is that this guideline doesn't only look at the provision of school lunch. Depending on the type of school, the length children are at school, their age, there are a number of considerations that are important. And as I mentioned, it's really important these are in line with the national dietary guidelines. So this guideline actually also considered school breakfast programs, fruit and vegetable provision, and also the foods and beverages served or sold just throughout the school day.
That was Katrin Engelhardt, who's a scientist at the WHO. It's 6:30. It's with Jwalani Tulongwepe.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has deployed an army battalion to Kaima district in the central Kwara state after suspected jihadist fighters killed 170 people in an overnight attack. An unknown number of aid workers are missing after airstrikes hit a hospital in South Sudan near the Ethiopian border. And finally, Spain's Prime Minister says he's determined to go ahead with plans to limit social media use by children. This despite intense criticism from tech billionaires. I will have details on these and other stories at 7 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Right, let's catch you up with the world of sport. And of course, on a Friday, we're always looking forward to the weekend that's coming full of sport. And on top for us is Figile Lingwati. Very good morning, brother.
Sports on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Good morning, Peter. We serve off with tennis news. South Africa and Montenegro are ready for the Battle of the Davis Cup. Both teams are in good space as Reno, South Africa prepared to host Montenegro in a Davis Cup World Cup 2 playoffs tie at Irene Country Club in Centurion in Pretoria on Saturday and Sunday. The South Africa squad arrived in Tshwane on Sunday last week, and team captain Peter Ndoro says they are preparing well. With all 5 members of the national team being fit and healthy, Ndoro says they are ready to put up a fight against the visitors.
We are very ready. As you know, we try to get together as a team we got together on Sunday, and we had our first practice session on Sunday afternoon. And so that gives us a couple of days. Normally, the first few days we actually put in most of our hardest work, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and by Wednesday we start fine-tuning what we want to do on the weekend. So it's gone really well. And
on to boxing news. Algerian boxer Iman Khalif says she will comply with genetic testing requirements as long as the tests are conducted by the International Olympic Council, IOC, to be able to participate in competitions. Khalif won gold in the women's welterweight division at the Paris Games in 2024 amid a gender dispute over her eligibility after the International Boxing Association, the IBA, disqualified her from the 2023 World Championships based on sex chromosome tests. World Boxing, WB, which will oversee boxing competitions in the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles after being granted provisional recognition by the IOC last May, announced mandatory sex testing for all boxers in its competition. And finally, golf news. The two-time major winner John Ram says a ruling that will see only top 10 finishers at live golf events awarded world ranking points doesn't seem fair. The official World Golf Rankings OWGR board revealed on Tuesday that its decision is to award live players points for the first time. But the limit means it will be different from all 24 other men's professional golf tours that are part of the OWGR, where everyone making the cut earn points. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lengwadi.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
6:35 Central African Time. So, today in history, 1952, Princess Elizabeth becomes Queen of England. Now, why is this significant for us in South Africa and on the continent, I mean? Well, the reason is she was actually in Kenya at the time. She was staying at the Treetops Hotel in Aberdare National Park in Kenya, and Princess Elizabeth received the news of the passing of her father, King George VI, and this made her the first British monarch in over 200 years to be abroad at the time of their accession. And it's often said that she went up a tree, princess, and came down a queen. And this event remains a significant footnote in the history of British-Kenyan relations. So Queen Elizabeth II, and I think she was the longest reigning monarch in the end in the UK, was in Kenya at the time that she found out she became queen. Stay with us. Coming up at the business news.
The Morning Switch Weekend with the Shy Guy.
I Show Speed, often called Speed, who is a popular American YouTuber and live streamer known for his high-energy personality, loud reactions, and unpredictable humor. He visited Ethiopia, and he was shocked what he found out, actually, when he got to Ethiopia. He got to find out that, they don't use the Gregorian calendar. That is, we are in 2026 right now. And he got to find out they are in 2018.
2018? Nah, you trolling me. It's 2026. No. It ain't 2026? Wait, hold on. Wait, we in the past? Ronaldo is still in Real Madrid. Everything is in the past here.
Oh man, how shocked Speed was. He went back in time.
Saturday and Sunday mornings belong to the Morning Switch. 3 to 6 a.m. Central African Time.
It's time to find out what's been happening in the world of business, economics and commerce. And at the business desk this morning, we say good morning to Matapelo Mahape.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning. Africa's biggest mobile operator, MTN Group, says it is in advanced talks to buy the 75% stake it does not already own in IHS Holdings in a deal that could value the tower infrastructure firm at about $2.76 billion. MTN, which leases IHS towers in Nigeria and South Africa, says any potential offer will be pitched at IHS' last closing price on the New York Stock Exchange. Shares in US-listed IHS Holdings closed 5% lower at $8.23 yesterday, giving the dual-listed company a market value of roughly $2.76 billion. And the Nigerian and Zambian currencies are expected to strengthen further against the dollar in the next week to Thursday, while those of Kenya and Uganda should be stable and Ghana's may fall. Nigeria's naira could gain as foreign exchange supply improves, driven by strong oil receipts and flows from foreign investors attracted by the high yields on the country's debt. The unit was quoted at 1,364 naira to the dollar earlier, strengthening from 1,388 naira a week ago. Zambia's kwacha is likely to continue trading on the front foot, helped by improving microeconomic fundamentals and resilient copper prices. Earlier, the currency of Africa's second largest copper producer was trading at 19 kwacha 9 per dollar, better than at the 20 kwacha 29 a week ago. On to this now. The South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it is on its way to achieving its target of reviewing 420,000 grant beneficiaries for the current financial year. The agency has briefed the media in Parliament on social grant reviews. SASSA says hundreds of thousands of beneficiaries have been notified to approach the agency and review their social grant status. SASSA says it is working with credit bureaus, the South African Revenue Service, the National Students Financial Aid Scheme, and other entities to identify beneficiaries with potential alternative sources of income. SASSA's Chief Executive Officer, Themba Dlovu, elaborates.
Despite the significant operational pressures that SASSA faces, we continue to make steady progress in strengthening risk mitigation mechanism and advancing the modernization of social grants ecosystem. This measure goes a long way in detecting and preventing fraud that happens in the social grant system.
And over 300 permanent contract jobs are expected to be created by the new Heineken Soufflé Malt facility in the Vaal, located in South Africa's Gauteng province. The $125 million investment facility, which authorities says marks a longer-term commitment to strengthening the country's brewing and farming communities, has been officially launched. Heineken Supply Chain Director Johan van Zyl says that the project is scheduled to be completed by June next year.
We are also going to aggressively invest in skills development. As you can imagine, it's the latest technology we'll be using. So an aggressive investment in skills development, and also the support of the developing farmer program to then enter the agri value chain, just to source our malt globally. And you can imagine now with the disruption in global transport patterns and shipping patterns, COVID taught us that it is much better to localize your value chains.
A Bank of England survey shows that British companies' expectations of wage growth in the year ahead cooled a bit in the 3 months to January, and expectations for their prices also declined. Expected year-ahead wage growth dropped by 0.1% point to 3.6% on their 3-month moving average basis in January. Companies' expectations for their own price inflation in the coming 12 months are also inched down slightly, falling by 0.1 percentage points to 3.5% in the 3 months to January. A look at your financial indicators. One US dollar Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 376. In Botswana, it's 13 bula 7. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 22. And in Zambia, it's 18 kwacha 97. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 24. Russia, it's 76 rubles 46. India, it's 90 rupees 32. While in China, it's 6 yuan 93. And in South Africa, $1 is trading at 16 rands 16 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. A look at your commodities. Gold is trading at $4,813 and platinum at $1,911 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $67.69 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Matapela Mahape.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The rhythm of Africa. The pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa. The African perspective. growing with Africa for 60 years. Channel Africa celebrates 2026 with the African perspective. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Satellite connectivity is becoming increasingly important for Africa's digital growth, especially in sectors such as mining, agriculture, maritime services, disaster response and government operations, where ground networks are often limited. United Arab Emirates-based AI-powered space tech company Space24 has now commercially rolled out its next generation of mobile communications satellite, Thuraya 4, in South Africa, marking its first operational footprint in the country and part of a broader push to expand secure, reliable satellite services across the continent. Channel Africa's Nhlanhla Mahlangu attended the launch and filed this report.
The launch brought together senior stakeholders across government, business and technology, alongside diplomatic representation from the United Arab Emirates and leaders across the regional connectivity ecosystem. Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies in South Africa, Solly Malatsi, says the rollout strengthens communications resilience across South Africa's most connectivity-dependent sectors, including energy, mining, maritime, civil government, and humanitarian operations, enabling operational continuity and safety in environments where terrestrial networks may be limited, disrupted, or unavailable.
The opportunities exist in efficiency and wide reach of connectivity, how it can help industries like agriculture, rapid responses in disaster management, and also, efficient use of these technologies in the mining industry.
Sulaiman Al-Ali, Chief Commercial Officer at Space42, says the South African rollout reflects the company's strategy to become a global non-terrestrial network leader and deepen long-term partnerships across Africa through trusted technology and scalable infrastructure.
I think the economy in South Africa is one of the fastest growing economy in the African continent. And this is why we are choosing South Africa to be the hub of our launch of the new services that is coming from Thuraya and Space42 in general. And as you saw today, that we are launching not only the Thuraya mobility capabilities, but we are launching also other services like Earth observation and geospatial capabilities that is empowered with AI. I think the benefit is for both nations. First of all, for Space42, now we are bringing something unique to the market here in South Africa, where the connectivity will be more available and more affordable to the people of South Africa.
First Secretary at the Embassy of the United Arab Emirates in South Africa, Fatima Al-Suwaidi, says the launch will open more doors for Africa to enhance the AI sector.
The pledge that UAE put in the whole African continent in the AI sector, that is a $1 billion. So it's an AI sector. Our embassy and all the embassies in Africa, their doors are open for the African projects to enhance the AI sector. After the Space42 launching Thuraya 4 today, so that will open up for other companies in UAE to come and explore the market in South Africa, because Space42 opening here is like a great example of the achievement of the UAE government in the satellite and telecommunication sector, opening their branch in South Africa.
The announcement comes at a time when South Africa's demand for reliable connectivity continues to grow, focusing on solutions that extend digital access, support economic activity, and strengthen infrastructure resilience. Space42 says its local market development approach will be supported through engagements with relevant stakeholders to ensure alignment with national requirements and long-term service delivery priorities. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Right, stay with us, because coming up, a fascinating story which is about good work, early childhood development. We talk about it a lot, and we're starting to appreciate more and more how important it is in terms of a child's education. But actually, there's a direct relationship between countries where ECD is commonplace and how their GDP performs. So we'll be talking and taking a look at ECD coming up shortly. Stay with us.
As Africa renews, so does its voices. 60 years of Channel Africa. Stella Longwe, Pamalonje.
Apa ndikatswiri oyimba wa dziko la Zambia ameneyu ndi Isaac Zulu. Isaac, apa pali nyimbo imene munayimba yomwe ikuti manda ambeta. Nyimbo imene imakamba zotani?
Nyimbo imeneyi ndinayimba zona ndikuchoka pasi pa mtima amakakuona ma situation yena amene amachitika makamaka kukhala chikulisa achinyamata kapena azibambo tita azibambo. So kambiri chimapezeka kuti azibambo bena aliko amene amakhala ndi mitima ankhanza osadziwa mosamalirira banja kuti wachikondi wanga ndifuna kukhala naye mnjira yotani kuti moyo wake ukhale wosangalala. Ndino zimafika pena zoti mwina wachimayi walemedwa nazo nkhanza za munthu wachimuna kapena kuti abambo khala nawo pa nyumba. Ena amafika pa mtima pokamba mawu kuti ine munthu amuna anga pondikwatira ananditenga ku makolo sanatenge m'munsi mwa mtengo. Ndino nisafe chifukwa cha chikondi. Kulibe manda ambeta ngakhale tapita ku manda wina akafa munthu wokwatira kapena osakwatiwa sipamalembeka kuti pafa munthu amene sadalepo mbanja.
Tengati wamphamvu kuti iyayi azibambo azisamalira bwino akazi osachitira nkhanza komanso azimayemera kuona mazunzo iyayi kulibe manda ambeta.
Malonje, pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
A very good morning to you, and you're listening to Rise and Shine with me, Peter Ndoro. Asanda Beda is away today, but she'll be back on Monday. So let's take a look at early childhood development, and this is increasingly recognized across Africa as one of the most powerful investments in a child's future, helping to improve school readiness, long-term learning outcomes, and also community well-being. One organization working to strengthen early learning across several African countries is the Unlimited Child, which supports community-based ECD centers with training, tools, and structured learning programs. Operating in countries including South Africa, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Zambia, the organization says that it's helped more than 2 million children prepare for school. Channel Africa's Sisi Sechalo picks up the story for us.
One of the early childhood development centers that the Unlimited Child is supporting is Tembelihle Daycare and Preschool, based in the heart of Soweto Township in the Gauteng province of South Africa. The owner of the center, Ntobie Kaya Sapula, says her mother founded the center after seeing the neglect and abuse of children in the township. The center started with only 6 children from the neighborhood who were not being charged any amount. The center now boasts a number of 25 children. Sapula elaborates on how the Unlimited Child has assisted them.
We started with the Unlimited Child in 2016. We received trainings and then they gave us the resources. They didn't just give us the resources, they've trained us how to teach using the resources. Then we were able to bring the change to the center. At first, it was difficult to implement it because the understanding on my side, it was difficult. But with the help of the assistant from the Unlimited Child, we're able to understand it. And then we're able to display the areas, and we didn't have the areas before. We didn't have the understanding how to lay out the class. We didn't have the understanding how to teach a child using a toy. So now we're able to teach them using toys. We're able to bring the change in our classes.
Another center which has also been supported by the Unlimited Child is Wanda Daycare, also based in Soweto Township in South Africa. The principal of the center, Tulisile Ngubane, says the center was started by her mother, who was looking after children in the neighborhood. Their passion and calling of taking care of children is what made them to open the Early Childhood Development Center in 2005. Today, the ECD Center has 31 children and 2 classrooms. Ngubane outlines the difference that the Unlimited Child has done in their ECD center.
The company, The Unlimited Child, has helped us a lot in the development of the crèche and the work we do, and they are supportive. Each and every year, they come to check on what we are doing. They helped us during COVID. During COVID, it was very difficult, but they were able to assist us. We also got the company Ifala Bantwana to help us with food because most crèches struggle with getting food. They really assisted us during this difficult time.
In Malawi, the Unlimited Child has partnered with humanitarian organization Gift of the Givers. The organization's project officer for the ECD project in Malawi, Sumeya Issa, says the partnership has transformed the early childhood development centers in Malawi. She adds that while they were providing nutrition programs, they realized the gap inside the classroom. That is when they formed the partnership with the Unlimited Child. Sumeya explains further about the ECDs in Malawi and how both organizations are assisting.
A lot of the caregivers that we have, so the caregivers, these are the child minders, the ones that are taking care of the children at the center. These are free centers. The children do not pay anything, and they're usually from the rural communities or from very vulnerable communities. So they're set up as a policy that was implemented by the government to say that at least each and every community should have a community-based ECD center. But then we noted that there was a lot of challenges in terms of access to resources, in terms of access to early childhood education knowledge with the caregivers themselves. So us coming in meant that we will give them the right education that they need to understand how best they can nurture the child prior to primary school education and their life ahead.
The Unlimited Child Pride is served by not only supporting children to be school ready, but also ensured that over 14,000 women become viable micro-enterprises, either owning an ECD center or working in the care economy. They add that they do this through a proven ECD blueprint that independently has shown to take children from not being school ready to being ready. The Chief Executive Officer of the organization, Candice Potgieter, explains why their organization is the best in the area in which they work.
We know at the heart of what we do is the child. And what has been so exciting is that we have been able to take children that were at risk of never being school ready to being absolutely school ready. We do this in the most marginalized and rural communities across Africa, creating equal opportunity for children. So that has been the biggest highlight of what we do and what we continue to do in Africa and across the world. We also have the wonderful success stories of childminders who at first were just that, childminders. But now these individuals have become a huge part of the care economy.
For Channel Africa, I'm Sisi Sekhalo in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Right, it's 6:56 Central African time. Thanks very much indeed for always choosing our channel and our program to start your day. Let's take a look at this story now. South African-owned Development Bank of Southern Africa, or DBSA, has held talks with leaders of the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, a regional bloc of 16 countries focused on economic integration, peace and security cooperation. Now, the closed-door meeting took place earlier this week at SADC's headquarters in Gaborone in Botswana and looked at ways to deepen development and infrastructure partnerships. Channel Africa's Shingrai Madondo reports from Gaborone.
In an interview with Channel Africa, the Assistant Head of Communications and Public Relations at the SADC Secretariat, Annette Mtambanengwe, said the SADC Executive Secretary, Elias Mahosi, held a high-level consultative meeting with DBSA Chief Executive Officer Buitumelo Musanko and their delegation. Mtambanengwe explained that the engagement focused on exploring opportunities to deepen economic and developmental cooperation with the bank in order to improve the economic status of SADC citizens.
The engagement between SADC and the Development Bank of Southern Africa focused on issues of mutual interest, exploring opportunities to deepen cooperation in support of regional integration, poverty alleviation, and sustainable development. The meeting retaliated a shared commitment to leveraging partnerships that accelerate socio-economic transformation and deliver long-term development impact across Southern Africa and the wider continent.
In this context, Mtambanengwe says the DBSA indicated that its strategy places strong emphasis on supporting regional integration with SADC through transport corridor development with a particular focus on rail-based infrastructure.
The approach is aligned with SADC's regional transport strategy, which seeks to shift freight movement from road to rail to improve efficiency, reduce costs, enhance sustainability, and strengthen cross-border trade and integration.
Through the SADC Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan 2020-2030 and SADC Vision 2050, the 16-member regional bloc seeks to further deepen Southern Africa regional integration and foster development. The two strategic plans were approved by the 40th Ordinary SADC Summit in Maputo, Mozambique in 2020, based on three interrelated pillars, namely industrial development and market integration, infrastructure development in support of regional integration, and social and human capital development. Reporting for Channel Africa from Gaborone here in Botswana, this is Ashingra Matondo.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
Yes, indeed. We are now getting into the second hour of Rise and Shine right here on Channel Africa. And we have quite a bit that we'll be looking at, taking us to West Africa and also South Sudan, humanitarian situations developing there. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but the second hour of Rise and Shine begins right now as we say good morning again to Jwalane Tulongwepe with the 7 o'clock news.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has deployed an army battalion to Kaima district in the central Kwara state after suspected jihadist fighters killed 170 people in an overnight attack. The president's office says Tuesday's attack on Woro village was the deadliest this year in the state bordering Niger, a hotspot where Islamic State West Africa province and other armed groups have stepped up village attacks and mass kidnappings. An unknown number of aid workers are missing after airstrikes hit a hospital in South Sudan near the Ethiopian border. The hospital is run by medical charity Doctors Without Borders in Jonglei State. There has been a resurgence in fighting in Jonglei State recently between government forces and those loyal to First Vice President Riek Machar, who has been suspended from his post after being accused of plotting to overthrow President Salva Kiir. There are fears that the fighting could reignite a full-blown civil war in the world's youngest nation. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended his decision not to fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who is currently on special leave while receiving his full salary and ministerial benefits. Ramaphosa accepted the Madlanga Commission interim report's recommendations regarding police misconduct and corruption. He has faced harsh criticism for leaving out Mchunu when he announced that action would be taken against implicated government officials. While on an oversight visit to the South African Revenue Service National Command Centre in Brooklyn in Pretoria, Ramaphosa told the media that at the right time he is going to respond to all Madlanga Commission of Inquiry recommendations.
The Madlanga Commission issued an interim report and I have studied it and I've accepted the recommendations and the work of the Commission continues. And I know people have specifically asked about Mr. Mchunu. And I have said I am waiting for that process to be completed. And it's going to be completed in 3 months. And I'm not going to, in the end, let the Madlanga Commission report or recommendations not be implemented. The problem at times is that people focus on one issue. Like right now, they're focusing on Minister Mchunu.
Still in South Africa, the Premier of the Limpopo province, Dr. Popi Ramathoba, says about $6 billion will be needed to address flood damages in the province. Houses, roads and bridges have been damaged and destroyed due to floods in the Sekhukhune, Mopane, Bembe and Capricorn districts. Speaking during the media briefing in Polokwane, Ramathoba said that while they await for the funds from national government, the province has already allocated $49 million from its budget to start with repairs.
Last meeting with the CEO was to say they now prioritize N1 because that is also another road which is a challenge. So these are the roads that they've been there, this project, for a very long time. But this time around, we've agreed that with Sandra and also with the minister, we need to start to see movement on these particular roads, and we will be seeing movement on these roads. The issue of the 10 billion and the time frame, done what needed to be done.
Spain's Prime Minister says he's determined to go ahead with plans to limit social media use by children. This despite intense criticism from tech billionaires. The BBC's Paul Moss has the details.
Pedro Sanchez is the latest world leader to say he wants to prevent children being harmed by social media, particularly violent content and pornography. And that's meant Pedro Sanchez is also the latest leader to incur the tech world's wrath. Elon Musk called him a tyrant, a true fascist totalitarian, while the founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, claimed that the proposed measures would turn Spain into a surveillance state. But the Prime Minister said Mr. Durov was using Telegram to spread lies about the plans, insisting the oligarchs of the algorithm will not break us.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, South Africa's Bafana Bafana is preparing for the FIFA World Cup 2026. And John Ram is not happy with the ranking points ruling awarded by the world body. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine. Every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
Right, coming up on the program, we take a look at a couple of situations, sadly humanitarian in nature. Two massive attacks taking place, and the brutality, I think, is also of concern in Kwara and Katsina states in Nigeria. We'll be going there shortly just to get an update on what's happening there on the ground. And then also South Sudan, that ongoing conflict there is seeing people again finding it difficult to get aid and help from organizations such as UNICEF, and we'll be talking to them about the ongoing situation in the country and the challenges they're facing in helping people, especially children, on the ground. That's you're listening, by the way, to Rise and Shine, coming to you on channelafrica.co.za, streaming live. And you can also catch us on your social media pages. Just type in Channel Africa and you'll probably find us there. And also your mobile app, SABC Plus, SABC Plus, and then look for Channel Africa, and then of course Rise and Shine. Stay with us. We go to Nigeria next.
The voice of the continent, now online, with all your sports fixtures, lifestyle, and more. Channel Africa 1060. 6 decades of stories, voices, and vision.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Now, Nigeria is confronting one of its deadliest waves of violence in recent memory. In the central state of Kwara, suspected Islamist militants attacked the remote villages of Woro and Nuku, killing at least 170 people and destroying homes and shops, marking one of the most lethal assaults so far this year. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has deployed an army battalion to the region as fears grow that jihadist factions are pushing southwards towards strategic areas like the Kainji forest. In a separate incident in northern Nigeria's Katsina state, gunmen killed at least 20 people, underlining the breadth of the insecurity facing the country at this time. To unpack what this means for Nigeria's internal security and broader stability across West and Central Africa, we now speak to Abuja-based security and intelligence analyst Chidi Omeje, who's the publisher and editor-in-chief of Security Digest. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Chidi. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
Chidi, listening to these reports, 170 villagers killed, which is being seen as the bloodiest assault in this part of Nigeria this year. What's your immediate assessment of what has happened?
Well, the news got to us quite very shocking, and the area that this thing happened, it began to appear as one of the epicenters of these new waves of attack. Kwara State is within what we call North Central region of Nigeria, quite away from the epicenter of Boko Haram crisis in the far northeast, and of course the areas where you had the bandits, dealing with the people up north in the northwest. So Kwara State, like you rightly said in your intro, is just a corridor to the south. So the attack was firstly, we thought it was the usual bandits that are plundering that particular area, economic scoundrels who do this and that to get some resources. But this one looked quite coordinated, and it was quite obvious that it is far beyond the economic plunderers, those who kidnap for ransom and all that. This one appeared like, quite coordinated, like the terrorists we have, like Boko Haram and the ISWAP in the northeast. So later on, news filtered in that there's a convergence, with the Boko Haram people operating in the northeast. So the Kwara incident was a root shock to everybody, especially when we understand that the communities there, when let me give you a background. The community actually got a letter from the sect to say that look, they're going to come around to espouse their own brand of Islam. So when the community leader got the information, he promptly reported to the security agency, to the government. And it does appear that that particular action he took was what infuriated these guys. And then when they came, they unleashed mayhem. But another thing again is that when they came that particular fateful day around 5 p.m., the community leader promptly informed the security agencies around. But do you know that it took these guys almost about 10 hours, freedom of attack? They were just attacking these guys for over 10 hours, and there was no response from the state, meaning that, probably the problem was probably an issue of access, because I understand that the place was more like an ungoverned space. There's not much presence of government in that particular area. So there are a lot of issues happening in this country that we find quite infuriating, especially when the community reported this incident and there was nobody to come to assist them for close to 10 hours while these guys had free reign to unleash mayhem, to kill as many. Look, the figures we're getting is that it is far beyond 170 that you mentioned. It could be up to 200, going to 300. As we speak now, people they're still going around the forest looking for bodies, and they're picking bodies up to this morning. So as we speak now, we don't really know how many were killed, but it was such a terrible thing, I must tell you. Yeah.
So residents and local authorities say that the gunmen had been preaching in the villages before they struck, urging locals to reject the Nigerian state and adopt extremist rule. And my question then becomes, what does this tell us about how the militant groups are recruiting and also embedding themselves in these communities?
That's something that's a very significant part of the story, because it's quite almost the same as what we see in Boko Haram, those guys in the northeast that say that that they do not believe in Western civilization, that they do not believe in education. So these particular ones, we understand that their brand of Islam is the type that they do not want having to do with government. So they were preaching to the people that look, that say they should align with their kind of their brand of Islam. But the people vehemently refused. They don't want to have such people around them. So these things are just telltale signs of weak institutions and government. Because if you had a strong government, if you had a government that really understand the gravity of the situation, this thing would have been nipped in the bud. But like I told you, even when they arrived, the locals there try to inform the government that strange people are here and they're about to attack them, and it took them 10 hours to come. By the time the military guys or whatever came over there, the attackers had left. So people were left to their own devices, and of course they fell victims. So these things are just incredible. And I must tell you that part of the issues we're having right here in the country, especially the north, is the terrible politics in the terrible geopolitics in the Sahel region. Most of these guys are actually seeping into our country, and most of them are not Nigerians. I must tell you, because the issue of porous borders and uncontrolled influx of people from that region is giving us a very serious concern, because we are not able to have a whole of the situation. We have a lot of ungoverned spaces. We have a lot of people, influx of people from the Sahel, displaced in Burkina Faso and Mali and all those places. They are trooping in here, and it does appear that the governments are overwhelmed. So this is the situation.
Being overwhelmed. President Tinubu has ordered the deployment of an army battalion and announced a new military operation aimed at protecting these remote communities. My question to you is, the full might of the Nigerian army, why is it failing to manage these groups? Are they so sophisticated and so advanced, or is it just that Nigeria is such a big country that the country's army just cannot protect its citizens?
Yeah, I think I want to agree with the last one. You see, the problem is this, that as we speak right now, the Nigerian armed forces are, as far as I'm concerned, are completely outstretched, but thankfully not overwhelmed at the moment. But they are, they are tasked with every internal security challenge. You have to call the Nigerian military. If you have kidnapping issue, you look towards the Nigerian military. We have border issue, look at Nigerian military. So I think that the problem is that of the fact that the Nigerian military are completely overstretched. They are deployed in almost all the 36 states of the federation. In every part of this country, you will see Nigerian military being deployed. Meanwhile, the police, the civilian police, are much more interested in what they call VIP protection. So, but ordinarily in our constitution, the lead agency in dealing with international security challenges. But because of laziness, because of people not making use of not actually doing things the way it's supposed to be, now we're now relying on the Nigerian military to deal with all these situations. And let me tell you, Nigeria is such a vast country in terms of ungoverned spaces that are here and there, in terms of forests that are completely unmanned, so that these guys have sanctuaries where they hide, sleeper cells, and where they reactivate at any point in time to attack unsuspecting people. So the Nigerian military, as far as I'm concerned, have done quite a lot. They've done well, but the issue has come to the point that they are almost completely, overstretched. But like I said, thankfully they're not overwhelmed yet, because the moment they get overwhelmed, it means that they won't be able to take hold of the situation. But as we speak, the area we have this attack are not the only places that we're having concerns. There are plenty of places that are propping up in the northeast, where you have Boko Haram and ISWAP operating, in the northwest, where you have these cross-border bandits, the Lakaruas and Mamudas and everything. Then, of course, in North Central, where we are talking about, we are now seeing this resurgence. So the thing is that Nigeria really have, serious issues at the hand. And Mr. President, well, I wish him well, but I think he's lacking the political will to deal with this situation. This is not the man is known for his adroitness in playing politics, but he has not brought that to bear in terms of governance. We are looking for we expected somebody who have that political will, who have that strength of character to deal with this situation without minding whose ox is guard. But we've seen that happen yet. So Nigerians are left to their own devices as it is. Every day you hear issues of kidnap and all manner of things. I mean, it doesn't inspire hope at all. But then we believe that things will be better tomorrow.
Chidi, perhaps as a final question, looking longer term, what do you think must change politically, economically, or maybe even socially to prevent villages like this from becoming recurrent targets and to build some kind of resilience in affected regions? And I wonder if the army, instead of just might, also need to work on intelligence gathering.
Certainly, intelligence gathering is key. We have advocated quite a number of times that we need to take the issue of intelligence gathering quite seriously, because most of these incidents could actually be nipped in the bud through effective intelligence gathering effort, especially making use of the members of the communities. Look, there was a time we did what we call root cause analysis on some of these issues, and of course, the recurrent factor is the issue of bad governance, mostly, especially because it's bad governance that bring to bear all these ineffectiveness in terms of corruption, ineptitude, vindictive, all manner of things that are have exposed people to their devices. I have made people to see crime as an alternative way of living life. People, I must tell you, it's not easy for Nigerians economically. It's not easy for Nigerians in terms of, administration of criminal justice system. So all these things are combined together to, make exacerbate the situation. But like we always say, we believe that, Nigerians must understand that this issue is far beyond the type that would live for the government. We must come together to make sure we retrieve our country back. Otherwise, nobody, not the entire region will be engulfed. If Nigeria have issue, there's no part of West Africa separate region. Even the entire Africa, we're talking about almost about 260 million people. Where would they go if there is an implosion to this extent? So this matter must be taken seriously beyond Nigeria, even beyond the region.
Chidi,
there must be a concerted effort.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but thank you so much indeed for that in-depth analysis that you've been able to give us about the situation in the country. Thank you so much indeed. Great talking to you, Chidi.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.
That's Chidi Omeje, Abuja-based security and intelligence analyst, speaking to us about these recent deadly attacks in Nigeria, in Kwara and Katsina states. In one of them, 170 people, and that number could be much more. Listening to Chidi there, explaining to us what's been happening in the situation there. Stay with us. Coming up shortly, President Mahama of Ghana is in Zambia. We find out why.
Africa's story shines at 60. Channel Africa.
The African perspective.
The sound of Africa is evolving. Experience our new mobile app. Free to download. Free to connect. Across Africa, communities rise with the promise of clean water and clean sanitation. The African Union's 2026 theme calls us to action.
It's about mobilizing real commitments, securing climate-resilient water and sanitation projects, and ensuring that water becomes a driver of sustainable development and prosperity across the continent.
A landmark moment, not only for Africa, but for the global movement for access to safe water for all.
Assuring sustainable water availability for every home, every village, every nation. This is the Africa we want.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama is in Lusaka in Zambia on a 3-day state visit at the invitation of Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema. His trip, which began on the 4th of February, focuses on deepening diplomatic and economic ties between the two long-standing partners and pushing forward African continental integration. Leaders from Ghana and Zambia have agreed to abolish visa requirements for their citizens, a landmark move aimed at facilitating easier travel, boosting trade, tourism, and people-to-people exchange between West and Southern Africa. The two presidents are also exploring an enhanced economic development cooperation partnership agreement and 8 memoranda of understanding to widen collaboration across key sectors. Well, for more insight into what this visit means for African cooperation and what comes next, we're now joined by Dr. Houston Chiputa, who's a Zambian governance and policy analyst. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
From a historical perspective, perhaps, and a continental perspective, how significant is President Mahama's state visit to Zambia, especially given the shared legacies of Ghana and Zambia in Africa's liberation and Pan-African movements?
Well, it's very significant in the sense that Ghana was the first Black African country to get independence in 1957, and from the onset, Kwame Nkrumah, the Ghanaian first president, declared that African independence, Ghanaian independence, would not be complete without the independence of the rest of Africa. And so they, every time before our independence in 1964, particularly both Malawi and Zambia, because others had got independence the others came much later, like yourselves. But I remember from my reading in history that Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie Ben Bella of Algeria, Abdul Gamal Nasser of Egypt would gather these then young men from countries that were seeking independence like Zambia and Malawi and others, of course, to attend various Pan-African meetings in Ghana, in Egypt, and in various other places, including Ethiopia, of course, where eventually the Organization of African Unity came to be centered. So Emperor Haile Selassie was equally instrumental in ensuring that these men and women became part and parcel of the Pan-Africanist movement even before they got independence. So Zambia's relationship with Ghana is picked up from that perspective. And in fact, when Kaunda Kenneth Kaunda and Harry Mwanga Nkumbula, who were the instrumental leaders in pushing for Zambia's independence, visited Ghana. I think they were given pieces of cloth, which they call toga, which you wear across your chest, covering part of your back and part of your front. And it was a type of clothing that Kaunda wore on very, very special occasions. Nkumbula had one, I think Simon Mansaka Pepe also had one. There were about 3 or so people who had those pieces of cloth.
Right.
A symbolic
in the
gesture
interest
from
of time,
Kwame
because we're running out of it quite quickly, I'm going to interrupt with your permission. But we did see President Mahama wearing traditional clothing there, and I think the Zambian people needed to understand a little bit more what that clothing was. But that's beside the point. What do you think is going to come out of this visit? It'll further cement this long-standing relationship, but what else?
Yeah, what I see is, for example, the way SADC operates, though, of course, this is a bilateral agreement, it's a bilateral relationship. But I think there is more to be gained by Zambia and also Ghana as well, particularly in artisanal mining, because Ghana has been in artisanal mining from the 1900s to the present with regard to gold. For us, it has been big companies mining copper mostly, but now we have gone into gold mining, and we are having challenges with artisanal mining. So that relationship will help us leverage on best practices that the Ghanaian people have had in that industry. Of course, for equipment, we rely heavily on South Africa. So you can see that while we get equipment from South Africa, or we get technology from South Africa, we can also learn best practices from Ghana, with visas having been, of course, now removed. It's a lot easier to travel to Ghana, although, of course, there are no direct flights. You have to either fly through South Africa, Johannesburg, or Addis Ababa, or other places to access Ghana. So perhaps going forward, things should be a lot easier, both in terms of government to government and people to people. And perhaps that will also help us to understand the Zambians, to understand the Ghanaian culture, because Ghana is deeply rooted in our African culture.
Dr. Chiputha, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but thank you so much indeed for your thoughts on this important visit of President Mahama to Zambia. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That was Dr. Houston Chiputha, a governance and policy analyst from Zambia, giving us his thoughts on this presidential visit by Ghana's President Mahama at the invitation of Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema. It's 7:30 Central Africa time. It's time for your news headlines with Jwalani Tulo Nwepe.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says security will be tightened for witnesses at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, probing allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. This comes after an attempted hit on Viandre Pretorius in the east of Johannesburg yesterday morning. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has deployed an army battalion into Kayama district in the central Kwara state after suspected jihadist fighters killed 170 people in an overnight attack. And finally, the US and Russia have agreed to re-establish high-level dialogue between their armed forces. I will have details on these and other stories at 8 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
It's time for sports, and with another update, here is our very own Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
First up this hour, it's football news. Bafana will face Panama in 2 international friendly matches to be played in South Africa next month as part of the South African national team's preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The matches will be staged between the 27th and the 31st of March 2026. Panama, currently ranked 33rd in the world, were considered to provide high-quality opposition. At the World Cup, South Africa will be in Group A, where they will face against Mexico, South Korea, and the winner of the UEFA Playoff D, which comprises of the Czech Republic, Republic of Ireland, Denmark, or North Macedonia. The FIFA World Cup will be hosted by the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico from the 11th of June to the 19th of July. Venues, kickoff times, and ticketing information about the international friendly matches will be communicated in the coming days. On to rugby news. The Blitzboks face a stern challenge in Pool A, where they have been drawn against series leaders Argentina, Olympic champions Fiji, and an improving Spain side. Coach Oosthuizen, who is said to reach the milestone of 67th tournament, acknowledged that the team did not perform at their usual intensity in Singapore and struggled to convert attacking opportunities. He says their overall execution and accuracy were below their expected standards.
We basically didn't let other teams beat us. We lost against ourselves in terms of we didn't execute when we had the ball. We missed tackles. We didn't respect the ball as we did in Cape Town and so forth. So, like I said, it's a small fixer that we can do. I think if we can go into this training sessions this week and just rectify that and respect the ball and just go back to basics that made us successful in the past, I think we can be very successful this weekend.
Ryan Oosthuizen says their focus now is to correct small but costly mistakes that prevented them from maintaining their momentum.
So it's just about having honest conversations about each other, about the standards that we want to reach, putting your ego aside and putting the team first. But yeah, it boils down to just basically executing under pressure and just using the opportunities that we are given. So I think it's small fixes that we can rectify.
In our boxing news, Deontay Wilder has offered words of comfort to Anthony Joshua, telling his heavyweight rival to stay strong and assuring him he is in his prayers following the tragic death of 2 of Joshua's friends in December. Joshua suffered minor injuries in a road accident in Nigeria on the 29th of December that claimed the lives of Sinagami and Latif Lads Ayodele. Wilder said the incident stirred painful memories of losing his cousin in a car crash. Despite being long-time rivals, Wilder and Joshua never met in the ring after a proposed undisputed title fight collapsed in 2018. And finally, with tennis news, South Africa and Montenegro are ready for the Battle of the Davis Cup. Both teams are in good space as Renault, South Africa, prepared to host Montenegro in the Davis Cup World Cup 2 playoffs. That's a tie at Irene Country Club in Pretoria, Centurion, on Saturday and Sunday. And the coach, that is the captain, Peter Ndoro, says they are ready to put up a fight against the visitors.
We are very ready. As you know, we try to get together as a team, we got together on Sunday, and we had our first practice session on Sunday afternoon. And so that gives us a couple of days. Normally, the first few days we actually put in most of our hardest work, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and by Wednesday we start fine-tuning what we want to do on the weekend. So it's gone really well. And
for any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fidel Mwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Right, 7:36 Central African Time, and today is the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. We had a story on this yesterday, and it's observed annually on February the 6th, and this UN-sponsored Awareness Day is particularly significant across many African nations, and it serves as a focal point for governments and NGOs such as the African Union to coordinate efforts to end the practice and promote the rights and health of women and girls. And sadly, this is something that is common practice in a number of countries across the continent. Some, they say, deeply rooted in culture. But abuse of women, physical abuse, in fact, it's more than abuse, it's assault, it cannot be called culture. So, International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation is today.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and the whole country affected by gender-based violence. For all your favorite SABC radio stations, call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Okay, let's take a look at the world of business, and at the desk this morning, Matapelo Mahape. Good morning.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning. Egypt's inflation rate is expected to decline to 11.7% in January from 12.3% in December, aided by a favorable base effect and decreasing food prices. The decline follows a significant drop from a peak of 38% in September of 2023, bolstered by an $8 billion IMF financial package. Core inflation is also predicted slightly decrease to 11.5%. Factors contributing to the inflation slowdown include a stronger pound and decreasing transport and food cost, prompting the central bank to reduce its overnight lending rate. The upcoming January inflation data is set to be released by the State Statistics Agency. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has welcomed South Africa's inclusion in the renewed African Growth and Opportunity Act after it was signed into law by U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday. AGOA allows eligible sub-Saharan countries to export duty-free products from various sectors into the U.S. market. It's been extended for a year and will expire on the 31st of December 2026. Ramaphosa also announced that the process of appointing a new SARS commissioner to succeed Edward Kisweta is well underway.
South Africa remains in AGOA, and my guess is that the tariff relief that we get from AGOA will apply. We are still in discussions with the U.S. Trade Department, so our discussions are ongoing. And they will, I hope, will lead to a finalization of a deal between South Africa and the U.S. The succession issue of the commissioner, this man, who's done a fantastic job, is being well handled, well managed, and well thought through.
Africa's biggest mobile operator, MTN Group, is in advanced talks to buy the 75% stake it does not own in IHS Holdings in a deal that could value the tower infrastructure firm at about $2.76 billion. MTN, which leases IHS towers in Nigeria and South Africa, says any potential offer will be pitched at IHS' last closing price on the New York Stock Exchange. Shares in U.S. listed IHS Holdings closed 5% lower at $8.23 yesterday, giving the dual-listed company a market value of roughly $2.76 billion. And the Nigeria and Zambian currencies are expected to strengthen further against the dollar in the next week to Thursday, while those of Kenya and Uganda should be stable and Ghana's may fall. Nigeria's naira could gain as a foreign exchange supply improves, driven by strong oil receipts and flows from foreign investors attracted by the high yield on the country's debt. The unit was quoted at 1,364 naira to the dollar earlier, strengthening from of 1,388 naira a week ago. Zambia's kwacha is likely to continue trading on the front foot, helped by improving microeconomics fundamentals and resilient copper prices. Earlier, the currency of Africa's second largest copper producer was trading at 19 kwacha 9 per dollar, better than the 20 kwacha 29 a week ago. And the Trump administration has stripped job protections from 50,000 government workers in a move it says will increase employee accountability. U.S. President Donald Trump will have more power to hire and fire these career federal employees in an overhaul of the government's civil service system announced by his administration. The BBC's Peter Goffin has more details.
The new measure reclassifies certain high-ranking civil service jobs, making it easier to fire career bureaucrats who carry out government policy. The Trump administration's Office of Personnel Management has said that these employees can now be quickly removed from their positions for misconduct, poor performance, or obstructing presidential orders.
Good morning. Financial indicators. One US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 376. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 7. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 22, and in Zambia, it's 18 kwacha 97. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 24. Russia, it's 76 rubles 46. India, it's 90 rupees 32, while in China, it's 6 yuan 93, and in South Africa, $1 is trading at 16 rands 16 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. A look at your commodities. Gold is trading at $4,846 and platinum at $1,973 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $67.91 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Matabelo Mahabe.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge. 6 decades of rhythm, resonance, and relevance. We are Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Bringing you the energy, news, and good vibes to kickstart your day. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has praised the South African Revenue Service for rebuilding public trust and strengthening the country's fiscal credibility during an oversight visit to the SARS National Command Centre in Pretoria. Addressing staff after touring exhibitions from key business units on Thursday, President Ramaphosa highlighted SARS's role in sustaining South Africa's democracy. Channel Africa reporter Michael Mbewe tells us more.
The oversight visit forms part of a broader engagement with key government institutions, including the Ministry of Finance and National Treasury, aimed at demonstrating SARS progress and showcasing its modernization initiatives. SARS was established in terms of the South African Revenue Service Act 1997, Act No. 34 of 1997, to function as an autonomous agency responsible for administering South Africa's tax system and customs service. Addressing staff, Ramaphosa described SARS as a cornerstone of South Africa's democracy and highlighted the significant tax revenue it has generated since its establishment.
SARS is a creation of our democracy. It is one of those institutions that we are most proud of for a whole host of reasons. And for nearly 30 years, this institution has sustained our democracy. Since SARS was established in 1997, it has collected, as you will easily know, because you are numbers people, 23 trillion in tax revenue that has been used for social and economic development. Let me repeat, it's 23 trillion rand.
Ramaphosa also pointed to the recovery of public confidence in SARS, which had declined to historic lows during the years of state capture.
In just 5 years, public trust in SARS has grown from 48% to 75%. Now, the recent improvements in business and investor confidence are in no small part due to the diligent efforts of what you have done as the South African Revenue Service. The regulatory environment is a key consideration for investors looking to bring their business to our country. They seek certainty in tax policy, and in this regard, the Ministry of Finance, Treasury, has been consistent in ensuring that our tax policy is well calibrated, and you execute that. And they also seek honesty and efficiency in tax administration, which you have demonstrated over and over again.
Ramaphosa added that SARS played a key role in strengthening South Africa's financial credibility, noting that improved tax administration contributed to the country's recent sovereign credit rating upgrade and supported efforts that helped South Africa exit the Financial Action Task Force grey list.
When S&P issued our first sovereign credit rating upgrade in nearly 2 decades last year, amongst the factors that they cited as being of great significance was strong value-added tax and corporate income tax receipts. But the small print to that was the administration of the tax system. SARS was also instrumental in the work of the multidisciplinary team, whose efforts saw South Africa exit, as one of colleagues said earlier, the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, the grey listing of our country.
SARS Commissioner Edward Kesbeta credited President Cyril Ramaphosa's leadership and the adoption of advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence, for the revenue services turnaround, saying modernization efforts are improving tax administration, strengthening compliance, and enhancing service delivery.
Aligned with the whole of government and whole of society approach, your administration, sir, has championed our modernization agenda envisions a future where tax will just happen, seamlessly, automated, and trusted. Data science, artificial intelligence, and advanced risk engines are no longer our ambitions. They are our operational realities that protect the fiscus while improving service to honest taxpayers and traders. Agentic AI is giving us the ability to scale up a virtual workforce and free our people to serve society, apply ethical judgment, and ensure world-class outcomes. The results have been impactful and transformative.
Furthermore, Kesbeta said SARS has recorded steady improvements since 2019, with stronger revenue collection, enhanced compliance, and AI-driven fraud detection, helping prevent billions of rand in illicit financial outflows.
Since 2019, the fulfillment of our mandate has shown sustained and positive improvement. Revenue collection has grown consistently and outperformed the economy. Compliance effectiveness has strengthened markedly. Trade facilitation has expanded. Tax buoyancy has remained broadly positive. Through AI-enabled fraud detection, SARS has prevented the unlawful outflow of hundreds of billions of rands, protecting resources that belong to the people of South Africa.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Coming up, we go to South Sudan and a critical situation playing out there. Renewed violence in parts of the country putting thousands of already vulnerable children at greater risk. And we'll be speaking to UNICEF about the situation there.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. 60 years of stories and sounds. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, is warning that renewed violence in parts of South Sudan is putting thousands of already vulnerable children at even greater risk. Aid agencies say that fighting is disrupting food deliveries, healthcare services, and humanitarian access. In a country where many families were already facing severe hunger and high levels of child malnutrition, UNICEF says that without urgent access and support, more children could slip into life-threatening conditions. Well, to give us an update on the situation on the ground, we're now joined by Obia Achieng, who's the acting representative for UNICEF in South Sudan. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program, Obia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's start with the situation on the ground. What do you see happening, particularly in those affected areas right now? Tell us what you're seeing.
No, thank you. What you're seeing is a significant deterioration of the situation since the beginning of the year, and this is mainly in north and central part of the Jonglei state. And when we say a significant deterioration, it's estimated that about 250,000 people have been displaced. But it's not only the issue of displacement. This is a state where even before the conflict, the situation of children was grave in that the malnutrition situation was high, access to health was really limited, and access to education was also limited. So the upsurge in violence just exacerbates the already dire situation of children ground. Importantly, in terms of malnutrition, we are now estimating that about 450,000 will be at risk of severe malnutrition. And now these are children who, when they don't get access to therapeutic food, they are really at risk of losing their lives.
Yeah, I'm guessing that it's not just the deprivation of food and hunger, but there are real psychological issues that these children have to deal with.
Indeed, there are psychological issues that children have to deal with because, like I said, the situation was already there before, and the psychological issues they have to deal with. It's violence against children. There are children who are unaccompanied in these locations, and there are children who do not have any access to any health facilities right now, even to get those mental support. So it is a dire situation for them.
Explain to us how exactly the fighting is actually disrupting the food supply chains and health services. Is it the roads, facilities, staffing, security, or maybe even all of the above?
Well, I would say it's most of the above. It is disrupting support to children in a couple of ways. When there is conflict, which is already ongoing in Jonglei, number one is that the people providing those health services are displaced, which means that nobody to provide the care. Number two, the facilities. We are seeing about 17 health facilities that have been destroyed, and that means people will not be able to get access. Then there is an issue of access by river is limited. Access by air is limited. There basically no roads. So access by road for the limited locations which had been, that is already limited. That really constrains the degree of work that can be done in those locations, not only by UNICEF, but the wider UN agencies and other NGOs on ground. That's the real impact. Really limited access by air, limited access by road, and also limited access by river.
You've mentioned Jonglei a couple of times now. Which parts of South Sudan are currently most affected, and how large is the child population in these high-risk areas?
The parts that are most affected right now, like I'd indicated before, is north and center of Jonglei state. But there are also some degree of vulnerability in other locations. Like I could say specifically Duke County, we have multiple crises ongoing. Duke County, it's been reported there are some cholera cases. So that already adds to the conflict displacement. And cholera, like we all know, is a disease that spreads widely if it is not contained. So Duke County has the cholera incidences being reported in there. Then if you look at Akobo in particular, Akobo had limited access for a couple of months, but we were privileged to get access this week, and UNICEF was able to respond in Akobo together with other UN agencies and NGOs. Similarly, in Duke County, we're already providing some support in relation to health, nutrition, education in those locations.
What about education? That must be at risk as well.
Education is really at risk. And, this week was when schools in South Sudan opened. They opened just this week on Monday, but most of these conflict affected locations. We've not yet taken the complete census, but we know that because of the displacement, most of the children will not be able to go to school. And just to paint the gravity of the picture in here, this is a state where you find that most children were also out of school. Broadly in South Sudan, we estimate that about 2.8 million children are out of school. So when we get an upsurge of conflict, it means many more will be out of school. And without them getting access to education, they might not be able to have a secured future.
What commitments or actions do you need from the authorities and armed actors to allow aid to move safely and consistently?
Basically, two commitments or three commitments. Those locations will be able to provide support as needed. And the number two, which is actually the most important, is a cessation of hostilities. Because with cessation of hostilities, children will be able to go back to school, health services will be able to be provided, and people will be able to go back to their normal lives. So that's the most critical. The guns to remain silent, cessation of hostilities, peace to resume, and access for humanitarian actors in the locations that we do not have access. Those are the two key asks that we'll have.
And do you have a message maybe to African governments and regional bodies and even donors about what must happen in South Sudan?
We've had generous from the donors for the engagements that we've had. I know there's been we've had generous support from donors, but there've been the global impact on the support that is being provided for in South Sudan. We'll continue saying that the support is needed. We cannot give up on South Sudan, but if we give up on South Sudan, it will mean more lives will be lost. So we need to sustain the support. But more importantly, from neighboring countries and other countries is to engage with the government of South Sudan so that the peace can be restored in the country. I have to say that the engagement here, it's not only humanitarian, which is needed by all, but the political. I have to say that with the government of South Sudan also, we're engaging at various levels with the ministries that are concerned and together providing support where it can be, where we can.
Obia Achieng, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for giving us that update, and let's hope that things improve on the ground for the desperate children in need there. Thanks for your time.
Many thanks for the privilege of your time as well.
That's Obia Achieng, who's South Sudan's acting representative for UNICEF, talking to us about this dire situation in the country right now.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
It's time for the third hour of Rise and Shine with me, Peter Ndoro, and Asanda Beda, who's away today. And we have so much still to come. I'll tell you more about that after the news, because it's 8 o'clock. And here's the news with Jwalane Tulongwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says security will be tightened for witnesses at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, probing allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. This comes after an attempted hit on Viandre Pretorius in the east of Johannesburg. Yesterday morning, Pretorius was implicated by slain witness D at the commission for his involvement in the alleged torture and killing of a motorist by the Ekurhuleni Metro Police officers in 2022. Last year, witness D, also known as Marius van der Merwe, was killed after giving testimony at the commission. Ramaphosa has expressed profound outrage at the latest incident.
We are terribly appalled at attempts that are being made by those who have been doing wrong things against witnesses. And we want to tighten security much more so that those witnesses who are giving evidence online should not be easily identified. But it is completely unacceptable. And this is the reason why we set up the Madlanga Commission, so that we can get to the heart of all the shenanigans that are happening with regard to these gangs and these entities that are trying to capture the police.
Premier of South Africa's Limpopo province, Dr. Popi Ramathoba, says about $6 billion will be needed to address flood damages in the province. Houses, roads and bridges have been damaged and destroyed due to floods in the Sekhukhune, Mopane, Bembe and Capricorn districts. Ramathoba has told the media that while they await funds from national government, the province has already allocated $49 million from its budget to start repairs.
Last meeting with the CEO was to say they now prioritize N1 because that is also another road which is a challenge. So these are the roads that they've been there, this project, for a very long time. But this time around, we've agreed that with Sandra and also with the minister, we need to start to see movement on these particular roads, and we will be seeing movement on these roads. The issue of the 10 billion and the time frame, we've done what needed to be done.
And now to Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu has deployed an army battalion to Kaima district in the Central Kwara state after suspected jihadist fighters killed 170 people in an overnight attack. The president's office says Tuesday's attack on Woro village was the deadliest this year in the state bordering Niger, a hotspot where Islamic State, West Africa Province and other armed groups have stepped up village attacks and mass kidnappings. Meanwhile, officials in northern Nigeria say all remaining villagers kidnapped from local churches in Kaduna State last month have now been released. Gunmen abducted 177 people from Kerman Wali village. 80 of them returned home early this week after escaping their captors. No details have been provided on how the rest of the worshippers had been freed. The BBC's Mukaochi Okafor has the details.
A total of 177 people were taken in last month's mass abduction from the remote village of Kerman Wali. A local community leader has confirmed to the BBC that all of them are now free. Reverend John Hayab from the Christian Association of Nigeria said the remaining captives were indeed released and the church was celebrating their rescue. The villagers are currently at the secret police headquarters in Kaduna, where they are undergoing medical checks. Reverend Hayab said they were in good condition and arrangements were being made for them to be reunited with their families.
And finally, the US and Russia have agreed to re-establish high-level dialogue between their armed forces. The announcement came after a meeting of senior US and Russian military officers in Abu Dhabi in the margins of talks about the war in Ukraine. This marks a significant rapproche between the world's two largest nuclear powers. The BBC's James Landale reports.
In recent decades, through crisis and confrontation, the US and Russia have often kept channels of communication open between their armed forces, the aim to avoid deadly misunderstanding. Those formal contacts were suspended in 2021, shortly before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But now the US says high-level military-to-military dialogue between the two sides will be re-established. This marks a significant rapprochement and comes amid Donald Trump's long-standing desire to normalise relations between both countries.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports update, the headlines: Black Princesses of Ghana are to face off with Basitsana in the FIFA World Cup qualifier, and Alexandrova and Beijing storm into Abu Dhabi semi-finals. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
You're listening to Rise and Shine. This is the third hour of the program, streaming live on the internet. channelafrica.co.za is where you can find us, and we're broadcasting live from our studios in Johannesburg in South Africa. Thanks for joining us. My name is Peter Ndoro. And don't forget, you can also catch us on your mobile apps. Just go into your app store, look for SABC Plus, that's SABC Plus, and then look for Channel Africa, and of course, Rise and Shine. And we're also on your social media platforms. Type in Channel Africa and you'll find us there as well. So you can listen to us wherever you may be, and even watch us on your social media platforms as well. So quite a bit still to come. One of my favorite features on a Friday is RT Beats, and this is where we look at a week of arts and culture that have played out in South Africa and across the continent as well. So that's just one of the things that we'll be looking at. And of course, our regulars, business, sport, and coming up with the news headlines as well. So all of that still to come right here on Rise and Shine. Stay with us.
Your life, your rhythm, your Africa. Channel Africa. Find it for free on Google Play and the Apple App Store. 6 decades strong, Channel Africa continues to inspire Africa and the world, proudly sharing
the African perspective.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge aka Binalex Sport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Africa's disease control body says that Mpox remains a public health concern on the continent despite the lifting of emergency measures in several countries. The Africa CDC shared updates on the disease, vaccine distribution, as well as cross-border health risks during its weekly briefing on health emergencies. Our reporter Lebohang Mabange attended the briefing and filed this report.
The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention has stressed that while emergency measures around Mpox are being scaled down, the disease itself has not disappeared. Officials say the focus is now on strengthening national health systems, particularly in countries carrying the highest burden of cases. Professor Yap Boom, Deputy Incident Manager of the multi-agency Mpox Incident Management Support Team at Africa CDC, explained the current phase of the response.
We'll keep on talking about Mpox. As you remember, the facts have been lifted. We are moving toward a transition, the integration of Mpox in the routine of many countries. Mpox is not over. The facts has been lifted, but the Mpox itself will continue, and therefore we need to strengthen the country in that transition and also provide the tool that will be needed. But as we do speak right now, the emphasis are in those 6 countries, DRC, Guinea, Madagascar, Liberia, Kenya, and Ghana, that accounted for 90% of the confirmed Mpox case.
Health officials also addressed concerns around cross-border movement and the spread of Mpox, saying travel restrictions alone cannot prevent outbreaks. King Messi, Epidemic Intelligence Unit Lead for Surveillance and Disease Intelligence at Africa CDC, highlighted the role of international health regulations in outbreak detection and response.
In the situation where we're looking at Mpox, to be more specific, we all know that for countries that have not been reporting cases or are not endemic to the disease, the patient zero usually has a travel history. But should we stop there and cry foul that case move, because we can't stop people from moving. We can't stop goods and services from being transported. And that is why the IHR was institutionalized, to ensure that we are able to build up very resilient health systems that are able to detect and stop the outbreaks at its source.
Africa CDC also provided updates on vaccination efforts across the continent, revealing significant progress in vaccine distribution and uptake, including among children. Professor Boom outlined the scale of vaccine deliveries and ongoing plans to reach more countries.
So far, we have 5 million doses that have been delivered to 16 countries, and both the LC16 from Japan exclusively to DRC, and the 1.9 million of MVBN that has been delivered to the other countries, including DRC. So more than 2 million doses has been so far delivered, above 2.1 million persons vaccinated. Children also have accounted 26% of the total person vaccinated. And as mentioned previously, the shipment for 30,000 doses to Madagascar is being planned, while we are working very closely with Comoros, Cameroon, and also Mali.
Despite progress, Africa CDC cautioned that vaccine availability alone is not enough, pointing to operational and funding challenges at country level. Professor Boom says support is still needed to ensure vaccines reach communities once they arrive in country.
The vaccines are available. We still have 100,000 doses that are available for immediate allocation, which means in case any country has a challenge, that now we have some doses that we might provide. However, those doses don't come with those operational funding costs. That cost is not the cost to transfer the vaccine to the country, but it actually, once the vaccine is in country, how do we bring that vaccine to the population?
Africa CDC says strengthening health systems, surveillance and operational funding will be critical as countries transition mpox management into routine public health services. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
8:13 Central Africa time is your time. We go to East Africa now, where Kenya's National Action Plan to eliminate cervical cancer by 2030 offers renewed hope for girls and women in rural communities, where access to prevention and care has often been limited. Now, the plan focuses on free vaccines to prevent human papillomavirus (HPV) infection, which can lead to various cancers, including cervical cancer, providing early screening and timely treatment. Joseph Moga with WHO's office in Nairobi spoke to UN News' Assumpta Masoi and explained how, by bringing services closer to where women live, Kenya is signalling a strong positive commitment to ensure that no girl or woman is left behind.
Cervical cancer is one of the leading causes of death among the cancers in Kenya. It's really taking a big toll on the population, the women. The Ministry of Health report of 2024, about 6,000 cases of women were diagnosed with cervical cancer. Of these, 3,600 died. That is about 10 women dying a day. It's a huge number of women being lost to cancer. You can imagine 10 women dying every day because of cervical cancer. So launching this plan that gives a way forward on how to prevent, diagnose early, and then treat women is really, really important. It has come at a very important time. The biggest problem with cervical cancer, many women, especially in the rural parts of the country, are not aware about cervical cancer. They are not aware that cervical cancer can be prevented. They are not aware that cervical cancer can be diagnosed early and can be cured. And a lot of this is also because the services are not out there in the rural areas, especially in the countryside. The screening services are not there, the treatment services are not there. So women have to walk sometimes long distances to the major centers or the health center posts where these services typically are. So the issues around awareness, distances to the diagnostic centers, and the challenges with referral and cost of travel, all these contribute really to the challenges the women are facing. So launching this plan is really very important because it addresses most of these challenges that are being faced right now.
We heard that Kenya is following WHO's 90-70-90 targets. In simple terms, What do these numbers mean for girls and women in Kenya?
Well, this is there's a global strategy for elimination of cervical cancer, which is summarized as 90, 70, 90. So in this strategy, basically aims at ensuring that 90% of girls are protected from cervical cancer through vaccination before they reach the age of 15. 70% of women are screened with a high performance test at least twice in their lifetime. And then 90% of those who have abnormal findings are treated. So really it's about prevention, early screening and treatment, as well as ensuring that there's linkage to care. So if implemented, can lead to elimination of cervical cancer, as we have seen in some countries like Australia, for example. That's probably going to be one of the first countries to eliminate cervical cancer because of implementing such a strategy.
Now that Kenya has moved to a single-dose HPV, that is a human papilloma virus vaccine, how will this make it easier to protect girls from cervical cancer?
Well, the WHO particularly is very, very happy with the Ministry of Health Kenya for adopting the single dose. This is a landmark transition because previously the doses were 2 6 months and girls would be lost to follow up. So it is cheaper. First of all, you're giving one dose that is proven to be very effective. Number two, the challenges of vaccination, follow-up visits is a problem, especially in the countryside. So it is easy to deliver this, it is cheaper and equally effective. So this transition really has been a very important one for Kenya and perhaps the region as well.
We heard about the Women Integrated Cancer Services, WICS. That's a project.
Yes.
It is highlighted as a key approach. What early lessons are emerging from its implementation in Nyandarua and Bungoma counties, and how might it be scaled nationally?
Well, this is the important projects that WHO has initiated. Project aims at is that integrates screening of women into general services, especially primary care, near the communities where people live. So when a woman comes to the hospital, she comes for maybe malaria consultation, or she comes to antenatal care, or to come to any general service. She's also screened at the same setting using the same healthcare worker for cervical cancer, including other non-communicable diseases like diabetes and hypertension. So it's an integrated setup where we don't want to miss opportunities for care. The most other important part of this project is working with the community health promoters. Services are integrated within the community health promoter system, where the CHPs go out to the communities, inform the villagers about this service. And when people come to the hospital, they come knowing that they can be screened, and if they miss the opportunity, they can ask for the service. So we are seeing that the WICS project is actually working. Also working with the county governments for ownership. They are also sensitized. They are trained to doing this project. So we are seeing that this is perhaps one of the best ways to scale up screening of women in Kenya.
Right, now, that was Joseph Morga with the WHO's office in Nairobi speaking to UN News' Assumpta Maswai, all about the work that's being done to try and help women and girls combat cervical cancer. Now, a fact that you may not know, but you should be proud of actually, Africa is the only continent that sits on all 4 hemispheres: northern, southern, eastern and western. Yes, the equator runs through the middle of the continent, and the prime meridian also crosses it, meaning that Africa is literally the geographical center of the world's coordinate system. And it's not just the cradle of mankind, it is geographically also the center of the map.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126.
I can see my whole world changing.
And contribute to the conversation. Stay tuned to Channel Africa. Stream us on our new and updated website, channelafrica.co.za. 60 years of broadcasting Africa to the world. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Right, let's take a look at this story now. The United Nations Secretary General has warned that there could be a humanitarian collapse in Cuba, warning coming amid US threats to tariff any country that supplies oil to the Caribbean island nation. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on January the 29th in which he determined that the policies, practices and actions of the Cuban government constituted what he terms an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. The order threatens to add an additional levy to countries that provide oil to Cuba, whilst the United Nations has urged dialogue. Sherwin Bryce-Peace picks up the story for us from New York.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has expressed concern about the deteriorating situation in Cuba, warning that there could be a humanitarian collapse if the country's oil needs remain unmet. His spokesperson, Stefan Dujarric.
The Secretary-General is extremely concerned about the humanitarian situation in Cuba, which will worsen, if not collapse, if its oil needs go unmet. He notes that for more than 3 decades, the General Assembly has consistently called for an end to the embargo imposed by the United States on Cuba. The Secretary-General urges all parties to pursue dialogue and respect for international law.
Cuba's Deputy Foreign Minister Carlos Fernandez de Cosio said they were engaged in contact with the United States, but that exchanges had not developed into a formal dialogue as yet.
We do not have a table of dialogue between the two countries. We have had exchange of messages. We have embassies. We have had communications, but we cannot say that we have a table of dialogue. Now, the U.S. government knows that we are ready to have a serious, meaningful, and responsible dialogue based on the respect for sovereign equality, respect for international law, and that we are sure that there are many issues that we could discuss, including many on which we have differences, and that perhaps many of them could find solution if there were to be a dialogue between the two countries.
As President Trump was pressed earlier this week about what sort of agreement he was seeking with Havana.
It's a failed nation now, and they're not getting any money from Venezuela, and they're not getting any money from anywhere. It's a failed nation. Mexico is going to cease sending them oil. So I'd like to take care of the people that are here from Cuba. You know, we have many people that came from Cuba that were thrown out of Cuba or that fled Cuba. They came over on rafts. They went through shark-infested waters. I don't know how they did it. And that was many years ago. Many would like to go back. Many would like to at least visit their relatives. And I think we're at a pretty close point. We are dealing with the Cuban leaders right now.
Mexico is currently Cuba's single largest supplier of oil, as the latter faces recurring fuel shortages that have contributed to power generation shortfalls, mass blackouts and broader economic disruption. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum indicated that her country hoped to send a humanitarian shipment of oil to Cuba this week without seeking confrontation.
Nuestro objetivo es enviarlo esta semana. Vamos a ver si es posible.
Our goal is to send humanitarian aid this week. We will see if it is possible. Obviously, we also need to know what their needs are, because it is not just a matter of what Mexico decides to send, but rather what is needed in order to send it. So it will be very transparent. We will report on it adequately.
While ordinary Cubans urge dialogue to ease the energy crisis facing the island nation.
I would like there to be a dialogue between Cuba and the United States so that things can be sorted out, so that we as Cubans don't have to go through what we are going through now, the lack of oil, electricity, and those things, so that everything can be more effective, right?
Everyone is concerned, of course. If Venezuela isn't sending fuel and Mexico isn't sending it, who is going to send it? China and Russia are far away and have always supplied very little. Of course it's worrying, but anyway, Let's hope it gets resolved.
The United States Embassy in Havana posted a security alert on X this week, warning that Cuba's national electric grid was increasingly unstable and power outages were occurring daily across the country, affecting water supply, lighting, refrigeration, and communications. It also cautioned Americans in the country or those planning to travel there of an increase in protests directed at the United States. A fully fledged United States economic embargo on Cuba has been in place since 1962. I'm Sherwin Bryce Pease in New York.
All right, let's take a look at this story now. The Unlimited Child, the largest early childhood development program in South Africa, but it's also operating in a number of countries, particularly in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, Lesotho amongst them, is one of the fastest growing in the African market. The organization works in these countries, including Malawi, and recently just entered Zambia. And it prides itself in having supported 2.5 million children to schools, getting them ready for schools across these countries. Sisi Sekgalo has more on this story, particularly from a South African perspective.
One of the early childhood development centers that the Unlimited Child is supporting is Tembelihle Daycare and Preschool, based in the heart of Soweto Township in the Gauteng province of South Africa. The owner of the center, Ntobie Kaya Sapula, says her mother founded the center after seeing the neglect and abuse of children in the township. The center started with only 6 children from the neighborhood who were not being charged any amount. The center now boasts a number of 25 children. Sapula elaborates on how the Unlimited Child has assisted them.
We started with the Unlimited Child in 2016. We received trainings and then they gave us the resources. They didn't just give us the resources, they've trained us how to teach using the resources. Then we were able to bring the change to the center. At first, it was difficult to implement it because the understanding on my side, it was difficult. But with the help of the assistant from the Unlimited Child, we were able to understand it. And then we were able to display the areas, and we didn't have the areas before. We didn't have the understanding how to lay out the class. We didn't have the understanding how to teach a child using a toy. So now we're able to teach them using toys. We're able to bring the change in our classes.
Another center which has also been supported by the Unlimited Child is Wanda Daycare, also based in Soweto Township in South Africa. The principal of the center, Tulisile Ngubane, says the center was started by her mother, who was looking after children in the neighborhood. Their passion and calling of taking care of children is what made them to open the Early Childhood Development Center in 2005. Today, the ECD Center has 31 children and 2 classrooms. Ngubane outlines the difference that the Unlimited Child has done in their ECD Center.
The company, The Unlimited Child, has helped us a lot in the development of the crèche and the work we do, and they are supportive. Each and every year, they come to check on what we are doing. They helped us during COVID. During COVID, it was very difficult, but they were able to assist us. We also got the company Ifala Bantwana to help us with food, because most crèches struggle with getting food.
That report by Sisi Sekgalo on the Unlimited Child, the largest early childhood development program in South Africa and growing on the continent. It's 8:30, which means it's time for your news headlines with Jwalane Tulo Nwepe.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628. SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says security will be tightened for witnesses at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. probing allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. This comes after an attempted hit on Viandre Pretorius in the east of Johannesburg yesterday morning. Officials in northern Nigeria say all remaining villagers kidnapped from local churches in Kaduna State last month have now been released. And finally, police in the U.S. state of Arizona say they believe the missing mother of NBC News anchor Savannah Gutierrez is alive 5 days after she vanished. I will have details on these and other stories at 9 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
It's time for your sports, and looking ahead to the sporting weekend is Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
The kick-off with football news. The Ghana national under-20 female team, the Black Princesses, will on Sunday continue their quest for an 8th straight appearance at the FIFA Under-20 Mondial when they host the Masitsana of South Africa at the Accra Sports Stadium. The first leg tie is expected to kick off at 3:30 p.m. Central African Time, with Masitsana hosting the second leg tie on the weekend of the 12th and the 14th of February. Nezrini Quentatani and Kholoud Amri with Enma Ajbuni as the fourth official, while Ruth David from Nigeria will serve as the match commissioners and Senegalese Fatou Gaye will act as the referee assessor. The Black Princesses drew a bye in the first round before defeating 0 on aggregate in the second round to progress to the third round of the qualifiers. Bafana Bafana will face Panama in 2 international friendly matches to be played in South Africa next month as part of South Africa's national team's preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The matches will be staged between the 27th and the 31st of March 2026. Panama, currently ranked 33rd in the world, were considered to provide high-quality opposition. At the World Cup, South Africa will be in Group A, where they will be against Mexico, South Korea, and the winner of the UEFA Playoff D, which comprises of the Czech Republic, Republic of Ireland, Denmark, or North Macedonia. The FIFA World Cup will be hosted by the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico from the 11th of June to the 19th of July 2026. Venues, kickoff times, and ticketing information about the international friendly matches will be communicated in the coming days. On to rugby news. Springbok Sevens forward Ryan Oosthuizen says their focus now is to correct small but costly mistakes that prevented them from maintaining momentum. Oosthuizen says they hope to do better this time around.
So it's just about having honest conversations about each other, about the standards that we want to reach, putting your ego aside and putting the team first. But yeah, it boils down to just basically executing under pressure and just using the opportunities that we are given. So I think it's small fixes that we can rectify.
The Blitzboks faced a stern challenge in Pool A, where they have been drawn against series leaders Argentina, Olympic champions Fiji, and an improving Spain side. Oosthuizen, who is set to reach the milestone of 67 tournaments, acknowledged that the team did not perform at their usual intensity in Singapore and struggled to convert attacking opportunities. He says their overall execution and accuracy were below their expected standards, which ultimately cost them against the top-ranked nations.
We basically didn't let other teams beat us. We lost against ourselves in terms of we didn't execute when we had the ball. We missed tackles. We didn't respect the ball as we did in Cape Town and so forth. So, like I said, it's small fixer that we can do. So yeah, I think if we can go into this training sessions this week and just rectify that and respect the ball and just go back to basics that made us successful in the past, I think we can be very successful this weekend.
And finally, boxing news. Deontay Wilder has offered words of comfort to Anthony Joshua, telling his heavyweight rival to stay strong and assuring him he is in his prayers following the tragic death of 2 of Joshua's friends in December. Joshua suffered minor injuries in a road accident in Nigeria on the 29th of December that claimed the lives of Sina Gami and Latif Lads Ayodele. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Okay, right, 8:35 Central African Time. Still to come, we have the business news with Matapelo Mahape. And yes, SABC2 are relaunching, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later. But just know that everyone is excited here in South Africa, and something that you should be tuning into. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that just at about 8:50. Okay, stand by for that. Right now, though, coming up shortly is the business news.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Leo tujadili kuhusu chipukizi wanaoimba nyimbo za wasanii wengine. Unadhani hili linatokana na nini, Omari?
Nadhani kweli kwamba tukizama muziki ya sasa, hasa wasanii ambao ni chipukizi, kwa kweli kwamba yani karibu kutoka muziki wao wenyewe, lakini wanakuwa wanapenda kuhubiria muziki ya zamani na muziki ya wengine ambao ni hivyo.
Wengine wanadai kufanya hivyo ni kupromote vipaji vyao haraka ili waweze kujulikana. Je, yawezekana kukawa na ukweli wowote au ndio kukosa kabisa kipaji cha kuandika mistari?
Ndio, unaona kwamba msanii anapoazimia kwamba kuchukua wimbo mwingine wa msanii mwingine na kurudia mara mbili sivyo, haionyeshi kwamba yani ndio wanaanza kazi ya muziki aizani, lakini ukiangalia kabisa asilimia kubwa utakuja kuona kwamba wanakosa ile mawazo ya kutunga muziki.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Now it's time for the business news, and at the business desk this morning is Matapelo Mahape. Good morning.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning. Egypt's inflation rate is expected to decline to 11.7% in January from 12.3% in December, aided by a favorable base effect and decreasing food prices. The decline follows a significant drop from a peak of 38% in September 2023, bolstered by an $8 billion IMF financial package. Core inflation is also predicted to slightly decrease to 11.5%. Factors contributing to the inflation slowdown include a stronger pound and a decreasing transport and food cost, prompting the central bank to reduce its overnight lending rate. The upcoming January inflation data is said to be released by the State Statistics Agency. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has welcomed South Africa's inclusion in the renewed African Growth and Opportunity Act after it was signed into law by U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday. AGOA allows eligible sub-Saharan countries to export duty-free products from various sectors into the U.S. market. It's been extended for a year and will expire on the 31st of December 2026. Ramaphosa also announced that the process of appointing a new SARS commissioner to succeed Edward Kisweta is well underway.
South Africa remains in AGOA, and my guess is that the tariff relief that we get from AGOA will apply. We are still in discussions with the U.S. Trade Department. So our discussions are ongoing, and they will, I hope, will lead to a finalization of a deal between South Africa and the U.S. The succession issue of the commissioner, this man, who's done a fantastic job, is being well handled, well managed, and well thought through.
Meanwhile, Ramaphosa has commended the South African Revenue Service, SARS, for restoring public trust and enhancing the nation's fiscal credibility. Speaking during his visit to the SARS National Command Center in Pretoria, he emphasized the entity's importance in supporting democracy.
SARS is a creation of our democracy. It is one of those institutions that we are most proud of for a whole host of reasons. And for nearly 30 years, this institution has sustained our democracy. Since SARS was established in 1997, it has collected, as you will easily know, because you are numbers people, 23 trillion in tax revenue that has been used for social and economic development. Let me repeat, it's 23 trillion rand.
And Africa's biggest mobile operator, MTN Group, is in advanced talks to buy the 75% stake it does not own in IHS Holdings in a deal that could devalue the tower infrastructure firm at about $2.76 billion. MTN, which leases IHS towers in Nigeria and South Africa, says that any potential offer will be pitched at the IHS last closing price on the New York Stock Exchange. Shares in U.S.-listed IHS Holdings closed 5% lower at $8.23 yesterday, giving the dual-listed company a market value of roughly $2.76 billion. And on to this now, crude futures experienced a slight increase but are set for their first weekly decline in 7 weeks as supply concerns eased. Brent crude rose 0.4% to $67.80 a barrel, with the U.S. West Texas Intermediate also up 0.4% at $63.54 a barrel. Despite a resurgence from January highs, rising geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and Iran, particularly regarding the nuclear talks in Oman, may affect oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, which handles a significant portion of global oil consumption. Analysts note that the two nations remain far apart on discussions agendas, maintained elevated geopolitical risk and premiums. A look at your financial indicators. One US dollar Nigeria is trading at 1,000 Naira 376. In Botswana, it's 13 Pula 7. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 22. And in Zambia, it's 18 Kwacha 97. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 Real 24. Russia, it's 76 rubles 46. And in India, it's 90 rupees 92. China, it's 6 yuan 93. And in South Africa, $1 is trading at 16 rand 16 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. A look at your commodities. Gold is trading at $4,846 and platinum at $1,973 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $67.91 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Matapala Mahape.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The rhythm of Africa. The pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective. 60 years of Channel Africa. Your trusted voice. Your African perspective. Into the future. Wake up to the essence of the continent. Rise and shine on Channel Africa.
It's time now for one of my favorite slots on a Friday, and each week we take a look at what's been happening in the world of arts and culture, and nobody does it better than Nhlanhla Mahlangu with RT Beats.
Welcome to this week's African RT Beats exclusive to Channel Africa, the African perspective. I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu. In this week's segment, Nigeria's Fela Kuti makes Grammy history as the first African to be honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, and the third edition of the Wits Theatre Beats Oya Kalaneng Student Festival underway. The just concluded Recording Academy's 68th Annual Grammy Awards recorded several historic moments with African artists taking center stage. A major highlight of the event was the Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Afrobeat pioneer Nigeria's Fela Kuti. The posthumous honor recognized Fela's lasting impact on global music and his role in shaping Afrobeat as a powerful and influential sound from Africa. South African singer Tyla won Best African Music Performance, marking her second win in the category. She beat other African nominees including Burna Boy, Davido and Ira Star. Bad Bunny also made history after winning Album of the Year, becoming the first artist to take the top Grammy prize with a Spanish-language album. The third edition of the Wits Theatre Pizza Ya Kalaneng Student Festival is underway at the Wits Theatre Complex in Johannesburg, South Africa. The student-centered festival program initiated by Wits Theatre staff seeks to facilitate collaboration and creative exchange within the Wits School of Arts and with other performing arts institutions in the Gauteng province. Choreographer Mangaliso Ngwenya has more on the festival.
The festival is really bringing our stories and our narratives into the Wits Theatre, and mainly focusing on the younger generation. So generations from training institutions like the Market Theatre, training institutions like Wits University, Tshwane University of Technology, and really it's bringing a diverse myriad of stories that allow us to tell our stories as the youth, but also allow us to share our stories with the broader public.
So what sort of activities then happen throughout the festival? I know it's running until the 7th of February. What's been happening?
Yes, it started on Monday and it's ending on Saturday on the 7th. So what's happening is that there are a variety of shows that are offered from different institutions. Like now, I'll be going into a show at I'll be going into a call time at 3:30 for Two Threads. So it's really an amalgamation of the program itself. Is different shows at different moments in time. Some shows are 30 minutes long, some shows are 45, some shows are 1 hour long, and they really are shows that range from dance to acting to performance to theater in different forms and different areas. But it's really to bring stories from different spaces, different institutions, different ways of creation, different ways of telling our stories into one space. So what usually happens that on a daily basis, the program changes. So there's different performances that happen from as early as 8 through to 8 o'clock.
How does this festival help elevate the arts industry? What would you say are some of the benefits for those who partake in this festival?
First of all, I think the festival, because it gives a platform to the younger generation, it allows the younger generation to be able to perform and to interact with audiences, and also for the public to integrate themselves and reintegrate themselves back into the theatre. Following the pandemic, there's a fluctuation of audiences' attendances. So it's an opportunity for them to come back to the theatre, be called back to the theatre in order for them to experience theatre. And one of the other benefits is that it allows us as performers and creators to be able to absorb and learn from each other, because we get to witness each other's works and be able to learn from each other the ways of creation as well, and also for audiences to interact with our craft, and also for us as well to sell tickets. So economically as well, it does really boost performers and professional performers as well as upcoming performers in the fact that it allows them to also earn from the process of the festival.
You are a choreographer and collaborator in Solitude Trilogy. What is this all about?
So Solitude Trilogy is about, it's really primarily a physical theatre work, and it works with gestural ways of moving and performing. So as the word suggests, solitude is being alone in your own space and confronting yourself and being able to tell the stories that you see and you feel when you're alone in your own space. So it's a trilogy because it's got three parts to it. The first part is called Glaring One, which is really about anything that bothers the human being or the being, glaring through it and not allowing it to overcome you. So the work is really about confrontation in solitude, and being able to move through solitude and move and exist through solitude. The second work is Glaring Two, which is really about, you know how we all have our own, in our own capacity, we work, we have a routine, we wake up in the morning, and sometimes the body gets really exhausted. So the work is really about putting this routine on stage and seeing how the frustration and sometimes the joy leads to different ways in which the body confronts the situations that we're in our daily lives. And then the third one, in waiting, is really it's about acknowledging the female figures, the four mothers that came before us, our grannies, our aunties, our mothers, for us to acknowledge them and how they're able to carry weight without any they're able to carry weight, but they carry it with so much grace, but they're able to also work through the weight that burdens them as well. So that is the Solitude trilogy, and in essence, it's about confronting yourself and the thoughts that go through your head when you are alone and in solitude.
That's it from this week's African RT Beats. Until next Friday for Channel Africa, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
So we're now just 3 days away from SABC2 stepping into its new era, and you can really feel the build-up now. This relaunch is all about bringing South Africans together through shared stories, familiar faces, and shows that spark real conversation. One show to look out for is Pimville, SABC2's new telenovela set in Soweto. It's packed with love, ambition, betrayal, and community drama, with a heavyweight local cast and storylines that hit close to home. The kind of show where if you miss an episode, you're already behind. 3 days to go. The new era of SABC2 is almost here.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go. For 60 years, Channel Africa has connected the continent. Celebrate the journey. Celebrate the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi has now accused Rwanda of violating the peace deal. Are you surprised at this latest accusation? This is literally days after a signing, a ceremony, so to speak.
This is not surprising. I mean, if you ask Paul Kagame, he would also say almost the same thing. One should ask a question. The broker of the peace deal, President Trump, what is it that he wants? Why now? And why is this peace deal being signed in the Americas and not in the Great Lakes? Paul Kagame has never respected Tshisekedi, as often say. Tshisekedi must deal with the problems in his country. He has nothing to do with it. So this peace deal, obviously, when it was signed, one just looked at it and said, this will not last.
Kenny Matiba, former journalist.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Coming up in a few minutes' time is the Friday edition of On the Move. And to tell us what we can look forward to is Palisa.
Good morning.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I'm very excited. My weekend is about to start in 7 minutes.
Well, our weekend starts here first. And we're going to start with film. There's a brand new African film known as Kabelo that's already making waves on the festival circuit. It's a searing Sesotho language debut feature from writer and director Carl Houston Macmillan. And it features actors Lebohang Ntsane and Warren Masemola. And we'll be chatting to both of those actors in the first hour of the show to speak about this incredible new film.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Always like local films.
It's the month of love.
Oh my God, of course, February.
Do you celebrate Valentine's? Are you planning something for your wife?
My wife and I, when we first started dating, we both said this is a load of rubbish.
Okay.
So we don't do Valentine's Day.
Okay.
We Valentine
but are you
every day
romantic
throughout
in
the
general?
year. Throughout the year.
I like that.
You
Okay.
see,
As long as you're romantic throughout the year, then it doesn't count
February
that you
14.
don't celebrate Valentine's Day.
And you know, the pressure that people put themselves under on this day. Oh.
But nonetheless, it is going to be Valentine's Day. And in the music space, there's going to be a concert called The Legacy of African Love Songs by director, and it's curated by director Victor Masondo. And there'll be artists like Msaki, Sipho Hotsticks Mabuse, Brenda Mtambo, and of course, Bra Victor will be joining us in the second hour to speak about that. And then we wrap up with a profile of Afro soul artist Baweze.
Oh, fantastic. Victor Masondo, legend in his own lifetime.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I look forward to that. Okay, so that is an unmissable edition of On the Move, starting in about 6 minutes.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
On this week's episode of Channel Africa's podcast, Channel Africa Conversations, I speak to Austin Aigbe, who's the Regional Advocacy Officer with the West African Democracy Solidarity Network, WADMOS. And this is all about the evolving political crisis in Guinea-Bissau. He tells us a little bit about the developments that have been taking place in the country. We've seen opposition figures being released, but what does it all mean? Let's take a listen.
It was the one who plays the call. Hello, I have been, there's coup. I have been toppled by the military coup. Have you ever seen that in a military coup? It's weird. He announced his own coup. That's the first time. That's not a coup. That's management. He knew he cannot go ahead to impose himself as president of Bissau. So he would rather use his friend, his chief of staff, etc., to announce the military coup. It's certain he announced the coup. Umbalo declared, organized his own coup, and announced his own coup.
Austin also further warned that allowing Guinea-Bissau's military to retain control of the post-coup transition poses serious risks for the wider region.
That means that any country's military can truly embark on a coup. You have the one in Nigeria recently. Officially, it's been announced that there was an attempted coup last year, September, October. There are many people still talking about the likelihood that it may reoccur. So you are giving strength to the military in the region and, of course, in the continent, on the continent. That you can embark on a coup like the one we saw in Benin last year. If it hadn't been for the citizens who didn't support the coup, I tell you, the coup in Benin would have succeeded. If the citizens have turned out on the street to support the military coup, I tell you for sure, that coup would have succeeded. Let's not make the citizens the bargaining factor. Let's allow the citizens to truly be the determining factor. ECOWAS must stand on the side of the citizens. The same way they stood on the side of the citizens in Benin, they must stand on the side of the citizens in Guinea-Bissau and in any country where there's any attempted coup. The same way they stood on behalf of the citizens in Sierra Leone, they should stand with the citizens in Guinea-Bissau. And I think that that's the right thing to do.
So that was Austin Aigbe, Regional Advocacy Officer at the West African Democracy Solidarity Network, WADMOS, sharing his analysis of the evolving political crisis in Guinea-Bissau. And this follows the release, of course, in detention of opposition leader Domingos Simões Pereira. And as part of that episode, I also speak to Guinea-based journalist Alberto Dabo, and he provided some insights into the situation on the ground. And he said that actually if things don't improve, then the country is going to get from bad to worse. That was Alberto Dabo. I spoke to both of them. So catch the full episode of Channel Africa Conversation on our YouTube channel, Channel Africa 1, and stream it on the SABC Plus app as well. I've got to tell you, it's a really good listen if you're interested in West African politics. Guinea-Bissau, of course, a country that was taken over in a coup soon after an election in the country a few months ago, and we'll see what plays out. But listen to that conversation. I think you'll find it fascinating, to say the least. Well, that's how we come to the end of this week's edition, Friday's edition of Rise and Shine, and this week's set of programs. Join us again on Monday for more Rise and Shine at 6 a.m. Central African Time. I hand over now to the On the Move team.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Good morning. It's time for On the Move with myself, Palisa Tau, and Benjamin Moshatama for the next 3 hours. But first, let's get our latest news update.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Top stories.